So, the FNCS is starting back up this week. As of the time you're watching this, the teams will be loading up, queuing up. They might have already queued up if you're a late viewer. And so I thought, let's talk about some of the new teams. We have a bunch of different snake innings that have gone on. Of course, we've seen the high-profile ones with the Peterbots and whatnot. But we actually have a lot of really cool, really interesting new trios going into this season, Major 2. And I thought we should talk about them. And as we've done a bunch of times in recent weeks on this podcast, we're going to rank them. We're going to put them in the tier list. I want to say hi quickly to Teddy, who's back once again. And Hris, who is back on the show for the first time in what feels like a while, even though I think it's
I literally missed one episode. That was it. I've missed one episode like this entire year.
Yeah, but like your presence not being here is felt, you know? When you're not here, it's like...
Yeah.
You know,
when I'm not here, Boop just drops the stinkiest takes of all time. That's what happens. I miss one episode and he just gets a full 2 hours of stinkiness out here. So hopefully we can make up for that this episode.
I'm sure you'll be able to make up for it. Yeah, I mean, honestly, not that big, to be honest, with some of the takes he was leaving. And for all the people who were complaining in the comments that Teddy is somehow Hris's replacement, we're not replacing Hris. He just wasn't here for one show.
We're replacing Boop. After his takes, we're replacing him.
He's in timeout right now. He's in the fucking naughty corner, you know?
Yeah, Teddy is Boop's replacement. So get it correct in the comments. Hello, my friends. Unfortunately, there was a slight problem with the audio during the tier list segment of the podcast. It's not that bad. It's just whenever I speak, you're going to hear me twice, essentially. Don't blame me. Blame producer Cause. Enjoy the episode. All right, let's just get right into it. Let's get right into it. Quartz, get up the list. Get it up. We have some different categories here. We have some different teams here. If a team that is new that you really like is not on the list, blame Coach Harry. That's all. The different categories we have for the audio listeners, we have champs at the top. This is for teams some of these new teams who we think are, you know, potential champions, teams who can win an FNCS in their region. We have a globals tier, which is teams that are contending teams who are top teams in the region will probably qualify to globals. We think are a relatively safe bet to qualify to globals. Then we have the grands tier, which is just teams that will make grand finals. You're not really expecting them to make waves. Like, they're good enough to qualify for grand, but do they do anything beyond that? Probably not. The Are You Sure tier comes next. This is for the people who, are you really sure you want to play with this trio? Like, this is the new trio, quote unquote, but it's the right trio. We're not too sure. And then to round it all up, from champs to chumps at the bottom. Chumps are essentially all the people at the bottom who leave the Fortnite before the Fortnite leaves you. Now, I see the smiles on people's faces. Yeah. Shout out to you guys, man. You guys are funny. We'll start with the first team here. New trio, who they've had a bit of a journey to get here. Khanada, Bugha, and Frets. Now, initially, if you were following the competitive Fortnite scene after last grand finals, Khanada was set to play with Rapid and Boltz. That was what was going to happen. And then essentially, Khanada decided, nah, I'm good. I don't want to play. Oh no, was it Khanada? Was it Rise? No, sorry, it was Rise and Muz. Yeah. Khanada was set to play with Rise and Muz, and he played, I think, like one scrim session with those guys, and he was like, I'm good. I'm going to play with Bugha and Frets. Now, this is interesting because there's some obvious reasons for why Khanada would want to make the switch to start off with. But the floating reason, and the reason he said on stream, was because Bugha promised him he would grind the game this season and that he was going to give him a Bitcoin, which roughly converts to around $80,000 right now. And people believe that if Bugha grinds the game, Khanada, you know, if he doesn't grind the game, Khanada will receive a Bitcoin, which will make it worth it for him. I want to say something and be absolutely clear with something. There is no Bitcoin being wagered here. So,
you ruined all the fun.
No, because I genuinely saw a bunch of people going, yeah, but like, you know, if Bugha don't grind, like, at least Khanada gets the Bitcoin, so it's worth it for him. Like, this trio makes sense. Khanada is not under any circumstances receiving 8 Bitcoin to play with Bugha and Threats.
That is unfortunate. That does ruin all the fun.
Yeah.
They have something way more powerful, though, Levin. They have the pride of champions and aspiring champions in the case of Threats.
You think so? So is this a team for you, Teddy, that you're putting in the champs tier? Do you see these guys winning an FNCS in the next 2 majors?
I am pretty exuberant for this trio, maybe irrationally so. Definitely globals for me. Definitely globals. We'll open it up. We'll talk through it, but I could be convinced, especially looking at some of the other trios here. If we're going to tier all these trios, that they could be champs.
See, Teddy, you haven't had the brief, you haven't read the comments. We're a Bugha hate podcast, this is too positive. This is too much positivity around Bugha right now. But really, honestly, I think, I don't really understand it from Khanada's perspective, if you want my opinion. I think if you look at last season and Muz and Rise and how they played with Japko, I felt they were really good. Obviously, Surge maybe wasn't the best, but it wasn't a spot that consistently did well on other regions. It was a hard spot to consistently play Surge from if you didn't get zones. Moving to Shiny Shafts now, I think it's a really, really good spot. And it's funny because one of the reasons why Khanada split is we're landing too close to Peterbot. I can't land near Peterbot. This is actually a bad decision for me because we will just get keyed consistently. And in my head, I just think Rise, Muz, Khanada is a trio that has way more potential, has a higher ceiling in my opinion, and could easily, I don't think either trio really contest for winning it, but I think they have a higher chance of coming third maybe or second, the other trio. But Khanada, Bugha, Threats, I probably would put lower globals. I think they still will call globals because of the nature of how NA is.
I agree. I looked at last season, Khanada was talking a lot about when he was trying to form a trio to start with, where he was like, if I'm not getting top 3, then I'm just not playing. Now let's be real, he would still play. That's obviously the case. It's still Fortnite. So I think at least in his mind, he thinks this is a top 3 trio. Looking at the rest of the teams in the region, so do I. Slap them up in globals. But they're not. They're really going to beat Peterbot, though.
It's interesting.
I think
because
they're Threats. Sorry.
Yeah. Okay. Respect to Teddy for bringing in the much needed NA voice here and backing Bugha into. That was the most anti-Aphantasia thing you could have possibly done, to be completely honest with you. But the NA viewers will be loving that. That was a smart move. The NA viewers are going to love Teddy even more now. I'm going to put them in globals. I think we'll circle back to them as we talk about more of the new NA teams, just because I think when you look at some of the new teams that are formed and the general rankings, I do think these guys are really high up there. I actually really like this team as well. Japko, Boltz, Rapid is the next team here. Again, another new team. A team that's really interesting to me because you look at Japko and you look at the sort of season he had on NA and a lot of the respect he had. To be clear, right, for a lot of people who maybe don't understand, right, Japko obviously was playing with Rise and Muz last season, and he chose to not play with them anymore, right? He decided, hey, I don't want to play these guys. I want to play with Rapid and Boltz, which in his mind signified an upgrade. Obviously, Rapid and Boltz placed lower than those guys last season, but the big change this season is Rapid and Boltz are claiming they're going to be more on the grind. I think the meme coin market is down or whatever, so there's some incentive here to try, especially in the case of Boltz. And in that case, I agree with Japko that this probably is an upgrade, a grinding Rapid and Boltz with how Japko is playing. This is an unreal trio.
Yeah, I think in terms of potential, if you kind of compare this to Khanada, Bugha, Threats we had before, I feel like this team has a higher ceiling than Khanada, Bugha, Threats, in my personal opinion. But I worry. You're talking about essentially this entire team stands in the balance of the meme coin market. If we see a one upswing in that, they've fallen off. And that might be it over. They might show up for grands and do good, but the grind, will it actually be there or not? So, coin flip whether or not these teams are going to be continually grinding the whole season. I hope I see it, because Boltz was such a good up-and-come player, some Rapid, of course, as well. And it just seemed like an upwards trajectory. And I hope last season was just kind of like a dot on their market where they just kind of fell off for a little bit. And now they're back, they're going to grind and do well. So I'm excited, but I'm tentatively excited.
Yeah, I mean, it's really interesting because this is kind of the similar problem with Bugha's trio, right? If the market's good, then they're not going to play. And I think for Japko, if I remember correctly, he split with Quanti and Edgy because they were doing meme coins too much, right? And then it ends up in a situation, he's back in a situation where if the market's good again for meme coins, he's in a situation where he's got a team who's not going to be grinding. However, the floor of where they could place is still going to be a top 7, right? They're still, at worst case scenario, they're going to come 7th, right? My only worry is that Boltz performance in grand finals was far below what he can do. Right, if you watched a lot of their games and watched how he played, it did feel like Boltz and Rapids, both of them, to be honest, both played well under par for what they're used to. Whether it's Boltz was dying way too much whenever they got Invis coin, he died really early with it. He never really got the same use out of it, in comparison to a lot of other players. Rapid IGLing, it didn't feel like they had a consistent way of playing. There was a lot of games they were like 300 below Surge, which is insane for players of their level, right? So I'm tentative about whether I want to say they're better than Khanada, Bugha, and Threats, because I think there's a lot of question marks for me. But if they just play the whole season, play to their potential of where they were a season ago, then yeah, they should be for sure contesting for winning.
Teddy, these guys versus your big threats of Bugha, Khanada, and Threats. How do you feel about them?
I totally agree with Hris. They have the higher ceiling. Boltz was head to head. He was beating Peterbot for a good 3-month span of like real, true domination. But I think based off of the meme coin thing, we're going to have to put them one behind Khanada, Bugha, and Threats.
You think
in
so?
my opinion. In my opinion, yeah.
I wonder why you think that. Just because Bugha was also on like the meme coin grind, right? They both just weren't grinding, right? So what's like the differentiator there for you?
I think when you get to a grand finals lobby, the differentiator is the Bugha, Khanada, like true experience of they've been there so many times. They can play so many different strategies, and it's just more natural when they're there. But maybe I'm irrationally confident about this team. Maybe I just believe we're going to get a great Bugha comeback storyline. Yeah. You know, this big rivalry that goes back years. They're going to be best friends, and it's going to be, you know, we're going to make great YouTube videos about it. But so maybe I just want to believe something that is simply not true.
No,
that's the way I see it.
What makes a lot of sense what we're saying as well is even when you're like looking at the composition of these teams, as silly as what I'm about to say is, you have to take into consideration that on Khanada's trio, you have just one guy who might leave because of meme coin. Whereas
the
on Japko's team, you know, Boltz and Rapid, if the market's looking good, Boltz and Rapid might just go back to not grinding, right? Whereas like, you know, Threats last season was really on the grind. Like, Threats was playing scrim sessions like with just 2 fails just to try and play the game. So yeah, I think that's fair. We'll say I do agree though. I think these guys have a higher ceiling.
Yeah, last point I want to quickly make on it is like just looking also landing spot versus landing spot, right? Japko, Boltz, Rapid landing at Flooded Frogs, Khanada, Bugha, and Threats landing Seaport. Seaport this season is by far a better spot, I think. I think Seaport is one of the best spots on the map uncontested. So I feel like just going even just off that, even if they both just end up not playing, I think naturally, Khanada, Bugha, and Threats will just place higher.
And then one quick scenario, right? Meme coin market's tanking. Bugha doesn't care about the losses as much as maybe Boltz or Rapids do, right? In middle of a tournament, meme coin market's tanking. You know,
the morale goes down. Bugha's like, I got a couple million in the bank anyway. I'm not, you know,
exactly.
Sweating, you know.
You actually raised such a good point because we're sitting here thinking the risk is that the meme coins skyrocket and then they fall off. Well, yeah, you're right. What if it all just falls apart? Who's going to really struggle? I think that's a kook. I think that's a kook.
Yeah.
All right, the next team, another NA team. We got Muz, Rise, and Curly. Now, this one's interesting because a lot of the NA snaking-ins and stuff we see go sort of around is obviously sort of like within those like big 7 teams, right? A lot of those same players. But last season we saw, you know, the rise of a couple, you know, different players within NA who started to push up a bit, you know, fight upwards. And Curly was one of those players. And he's got a shot now with Muz and Rise, and it looks like they're going to be playing. Is this a team who you're confident in their ability to make it to globals right now?
I just want to quick say about like Curly and the situation because I think there's some context here which is very funny if you don't know. So basically, obviously, Noxy, Vergo, Curly came 8th last season, and then there was a team of Shadow, Curve, and Tyler who came 9th. Shadow was landing at Kappa, Noxy was landing at Noxy was landing at Kappa, Shadow going into season was landing Pump Power. So that was like the context. And then basically what happened was the Shadow, Curve, and Tyler team fake split to try and get Vergo, so that then the trio at Kappa would split and they could go contest Kappa themselves. So that what happens, they asked one of the players, I think it was Shadow asked Vergo, it was like, look, can we trio so we can go Kappa, get it uncontested? And then after like an hour, they were like, yeah, we're not trioing with you. We just want Kappa uncontested. And obviously, Noxy, Vergo, and Curly, all the vibes are gone. They're ruined. It's all crashed out. And they've ended up splitting. And then even after all of that, they were all like, Shadow's a mastermind. It didn't even matter because now Curly and all the trios are split up anyway. Yeah. But I just wanted to say that because it was quite funny to see the way NA is and how like trios pick landing spots and you pick your trio based off the landing spot, less so the players, right? But when it comes to like just Muz, Rise, and Curly as players, I don't know why Muz and Rise don't get like top options. Like obviously they had Khanada, right? And then Japko also didn't play with or stopped playing with them. Because whenever I watch NA, I feel like they play really well. I feel like Muz is really underrated. I feel like Rise has got a good reputation and good experience. I'm not saying Curly's bad, but when you think about the caliber of players that they could or potentially should be getting, I feel like this is well below what they are capable of getting, in my opinion.
If Rise is such a good idea, why didn't you pick him for the draft last week?
I mean, I got Chap OG. Chap is fair.
All right, buddy. Nah, shout out to Rise, but
I feel like with Muz and Rise though, they're at the kind of point where they're a top 5. I mean, they literally were 5th last season, right? So it's like they're in that threshold where the tier 1 players are like, might be a downgrade to play with them, and there's not that many free super available players on their level. So like to say Curly, they was 8th or 9th last season, like. That's a good option, for a round where they're placing. Obviously, I'm using one season as an example. That makes sense. Like, to me, it's like I didn't see this team last season being a 2nd or a 1st. So, you're not going to get players, a trio with them that are caliber of the 1st or 2nd. I think, maybe they're dipping down, trying to get an underrated GOAT. But I don't think this is like too crazy,
It's interesting because these guys obviously they tried out with a couple different people, right? They tried out with Vergo as well. So it's like, you're right, Rhys, in terms of like, they're looking at the players that just sort of plays just below them and like who's the like most underrated GOAT in that group, right? And who can, stay at this level. But where are we putting them, Teddy? I'm going to put the pressure on you here.
I think we put them behind Japko, Boltz, and Rapid. Because Globals means that they're like a top...
Globals means
10 trio on the region. How many spots for trios for NA? 10.
I think on
it's
major 3
7 in total.
7 or 8. No.
So major 2 it's 3, and then 2 it's 2 3 2. I'm pretty sure.
Well, good thing NA is a NA is a 7-team region.
Because NA West took their spots. I'm pretty sure.
I forgot about NA West.
NA West,
anyway,
naturally.
All right. Yeah.
Let me just double check this.
All right. That's fine. While you double check, Reet, Vergo, and Shadow. Wait, so Reet's back on the... I thought Reet was going to go to NA West.
He's going to go to West, and then he ended up getting a good trio of Vergo and Shadow, which obviously those guys finished 8th. I think they're 8th and 9th, right, in separate trios.
Still playing mouse and keyboard this season?
Yeah, mouse and keyboard IGL, yes.
Yeah,
he's got this trio.
IGL,
All right, interesting.
He's just changing up everything about his game plan in one season then.
Yeah.
Well, he was going to go to West, which makes sense, right? If you're going to switch to mouse and keyboard for a season to try and learn it, I guess go to West. But he's got a good team. Vergo and Shadow, 2 great players. So yeah, I mean,
but it's 7 trios on NA Central. 7 trios. So 3 this season, 2 the next season that qualify to globals. So that is in total. So would this team end up fitting in that?
Probably not. I mean, it seems harsh, obviously, because Vergo and Shadow made it to globals last year, right? As a duo, or whatever. But yeah, I don't. Re-IGL and mouse and keyboard. I think obviously these guys make grand for sure, but I don't know if I'm confident in them to go global.
I think we put them in the grand tier for now. I'm not overly confident. Like, obviously, if Reet is switching to keyboard and mouse, obviously he's a good keyboard and mouse player, but I don't know if he's he's never played a grand on KBM, as far as I'm aware.
They want a scrim session. That's all that matters. Get the scrim bucks in.
Now scrim bucks is a thing, of course.
Of course. Scrimflation, that's what we call that, though.
Yeah.
I'm not. Yeah, I don't know. I think they're just a Grands level team right now.
Grands,
sure, they they could qual globals, 100%, but yeah,
Reet didn't qual Grands last season on controller. So, I mean, I mean, we should put them in Grands just based on the players, but I don't know if it's as certain. Vergo and Shadow, obviously, with the rise they're on, they're consistently now making Grands and doing well in Grands. They should just make it, but I'm surprised they chose Reet keyboard and mouse. Maybe he is just the next Peterbot. Maybe he is. Maybe he's just the next Peterbot.
That is insane self-confidence to both be the IGL and switch inputs in the same season. That makes me a little bit more optimistic about them, even with all these questions.
I'm just opening his Twitch VOD right now. I just as we're going, I want to see what he's moving like on the KBM in comparison. Like in
Nigel, it doesn't matter. He's Nigel.
Yeah.
If he can top and build some walls and floors, and he's good.
Oh, okay. Well, we'll move on to our first EU team, finally. Thomas HD, Hris, and Panzer. Now, this team formed like yesterday as the time of recording this. Who knows if this is still the team on Wednesday when, they actually queue up, but I'd like to think it will be. Yes, you're hearing that correctly. Panzer dropped MrSavage. He is playing with Ajerss and Thomas HD. Thomas has been struggling to find a trick. Like, it's been sad at the levels of struggle. My brother Thomas HD has been, he's been tweeting like LFT every other day, like, please, someone play with me. And then you have Ajerss, who again is a top player. He sort of tweeted at the start of the season that he was going to be looking for one without Skvi. A lot of people quickly said, we know that's cap. You're going to just end up back with Skvi instantly. And then for a bit, he was looking for one with Skvi, but then he finally found this trio. And so all of them have found their way together. How do we feel about Thomas HD, Hris, Panzer?
The confidence Panzer has for all the money moves he made. Playing with Savage, then going, you know what? I want to stay with you. I want to play with a Russian. Let's get Apple. I know you want Rezon. Give me Apple. Give me Apple. And then when the next best trio is on the market, fuck you. I'm going to play with Thomas and Hris. I have to respect it because that's business moves. He has just upgraded the trio every step of the way because I do think this is because when I first thought about it, I was like, I don't really know how it works. But then you actually it's like, Panzer's just a good IGL. Shown last season he can IGL. You got Thomas who could easily fit in, the support role and can play. He's not like a Peterbot when it comes to fighting, but he's good at refreshes. He's a good, solid fighter, right? And then you got Hris, who is the star power, the fighting power that you have as someone who can just get that refresh out of nowhere, get those kills in fights out of nowhere. I feel like the actual composition of this trio is really exciting. Obviously, it depends where they land. We have no idea as recording where they're landing, what they're doing. Any scrim sessions, nothing. We literally just, last night it came out, it was leaked. It wasn't even like they've said it. It was just a rumor that this was the trio. Yeah. And if it is, I am excited.
Yeah, if it's not, then ignore everything that Harry said and we're about to say. But I do also agree with you, Harry, in that on paper it feels weird because you got like when you're looking at like the languages and the comms and everything, it does feel like a weird fit. But in terms of just looking at who these guys are as players, makes so much sense, right? Panzer, obviously, like you said, good IGL, did well last season. We know he's a great surge player. Put him in the base, he's going to make things happen. Thomas HD might be the best person in the history of Fortnite to put in the base, but we know in recent years and seasons at least, his fighting ability has come into question, right? Is he still that strong of a fighter when you need to maybe fight for your surge? That was probably the biggest question mark around him amongst like the top players. But then that's fine, because you got Ajerss, one of the best fighters in the region, in the world, to make up for that. Like, this team's got a lot of firepower. They've got options to play different ways if they want to. On paper, this team looks like it should be quite good.
Have we all just side tangent, have we all agreed that his name is Ajerss now, or is it Hris? Or
I keep calling her Hris.
Because I'm hearing
I think I say both.
Right, I'm going to stick with Hris. I just think it comes out with the tongue easier until we've had official confirmation here.
Hris is easier. The only reason I think I started saying Ajerss is because I started hearing some of the Balkan comms say Ajerss, and they're obviously his mates. But I don't think he minds. Hris, let us know, or Ajerss.
Yeah,
let us know
we need to know. We're all out here saying it different. Anyway, I think one of the things with a lot of the teams that I've seen from him previously is that it's like you watch the mid games and it's like 300 below surge, no mats coming in to move in zones and things like that. Now you're literally pairing up with two of the best surge players at the minute. Let's be real. Like, obviously, Panzer, as we mentioned from previous season, Steve is from this season. So, like, it feels like every single one of the teammates fills in a hole from one of the other ones, and it actually does meld. The problem I have with this is that historically, when you have a really good hypothetical team where you're like, this works, I find like most of the time it just doesn't. In practice instead. You know, we can theory craft all we want, but when it actually comes into play, we'll see. I will say, though, I'm much more excited about this team than I have than any of the other teams with these three compositions that we've had this or last season at all.
Yeah, agreed. I would also put them in globals.
Yeah, I was about to say that. Yeah, I was about to say I would also put them in as a globals team.
I think this team will heavily benefit from a coach, and I don't think they're gonna have a coach, but I do think to maximize, because you're right, a lot of those teams when they get form reads sometimes just don't work, because I feel like they don't have that person outside the trio to like figure things out for them, right? And so you slowly start to lose mental and like lose comms and whatnot when there isn't that person going, okay, wait, you guys need to do this. Actually, this is why this isn't working. So,
it was BloodX coaching them like Panzer, Savage, and Mongraal last season, right?
Yeah.
So
BloodX was coaching them, but that's as a result of like BloodX working with MrSavage and Mongraal, right? So it's like Panzer's receiving the coach. I don't think BloodX would be coaching. Well, Thomas's HD is in the trio, so BloodX will not be coaching these guys.
I was gonna say,
yeah.
Here's the thing, right? Panzer has done the Bugha move. He's gone from team to team, taken the knowledge that he needs to. He's played a season there, and he has absorbed BloodX's knowledge. And now he is moving on to another team to use it instead. Now he's going to learn from Thomas HD, another more experienced player. He's going to learn from, maybe a bit from Hris, how to jump in box. Who knows? You know, we're about to see him expand more as a player, jump from team to team as well.
I want to ask the question, is there a world that this is the trio or the team that Thomas will finally win his FNCS with? Do you see it? Do you see it?
It's too early to say, so I'm going to say no.
No, but you got to
I'm going to say no. Yeah, so I'm going to say no.
Okay.
Yeah, on I would just say no. Like, I don't see this being like a powerhouse trio. Like, we're setting up all the hypotheticals, but at the same time, it's three players who've never won an FNCS before teaming up together. So to say they would be all of the other players of the caliber who have, that's a hard ask.
But it's the best player to never win an FNCS, according to Boop, which is
according to Boop, and the real best player to never win an FNCS. So they're primed for a second, is what we're saying.
Basically, yeah.
Which is a global squall. So
it's a global squall.
All right, I'm in there. Jannisz, Noahreyli, and Rezon back together after all the drama last season. After Rezon hired Kiduoo and cheating to play with him to try and take down, Jannisz and Noahreyli, and failed. They are just back together now. It's funny because Coach Boop isn't here, but my good friend Coach Boop was talking about these guys on stream, and he was talking about how like this is why you just don't burn bridges in Fortnite, because you're always gonna have to run back to the people who you burnt bridges with. And in the case of Rezon, he's now back on this team with Jannisz and Noahreyli. For the record, Rezon was trying to play with other people, right? He was trying to get into that Savage and Panzer trio, right? He was trying to finesse something with the deal, I think, with the deal maybe coming back to EU. And he was trying to figure something out. It didn't work out. And now he's back to Jannisz and Noah.
That's a grand team. Ooh.
Are you sure?
Gary, you got to spice your take. Hit me with it.
All right, so my opinion on this is, if I'm just going off last season, right, and I'm looking at Jannisz, No, and Chap and how they played, right? I was not moved by the way they either played Mass Meadows, the way they played Surge, when they had to fight for Surge. It felt like, even when they got Zone, it just felt like they were always struggling for Surge, right? And do I think Rezon is an upgrade on Chap? Obviously, Chap didn't have the greatest season. I don't think so. I don't think that is an upgrade, right? And going into this season as well, Mass Meadows going to be more contested. It is one of the best spots on the map. Again, has a vault. People are more likely to land on it. I don't feel like this is, to a situation, a team that struggled last season, an upgrade to a struggling trio. I don't think this is. I don't think Rezon had his best season. I don't think Rezon is grinding the game. He is playing it, obviously, but when you've got a Fortnite map doing as well as it is, you don't need to grind the game as much as someone like let's say Panzer, for instance, right? I just don't see this being an insane trio, and I'm sorry, like I just haven't seen anything from these guys apart from Noah, who I think played exceptionally last season. And has been for probably like about 6 months now. I just haven't seen enough in Jannisz and reason for me to say that they are guaranteed in grants. I just haven't seen enough with the amount of teams that qualify, or the amount of good teams that there are in EU at the moment.
Yeah, I also think that like the performance that Noah had last season, he should have upgraded his team as well. And as you mentioned, I do believe this is a downgrade as well. I feel like we're re-entering the Noah prime. Maybe it's just because I'm a big OG Noah fan. We have no idea here. Get it? No idea. But yeah, I think this is. Let's put this in. I agree with Harry.
Get him off the stage.
Get him off the stage. Tomato.
Yeah, put him in the Are you sure? I agree.
How did Jannisz and them qual? Did they win a game or was it consistency?
They came ninth. They came ninth in heats.
Yeah, man.
I think it was ninth. Let me double check. They
if this was 2021 though, globals. If this was 2021.
If we go back
if it was
2021, this is an FNCS winning team. This is
but I think you guys give good reasons for Are You Sure?
All right, you know what? Boo! Boo!
Levin, what's your thoughts on that? I just want to know quickly what your thoughts on.
If I'm being honest, I've not watched any of these guys play any scrims or anything, but I agree with you guys. This team split last season because it wasn't working. So now going back to the team that split when it already wasn't working, and like your spot is harder to play from now in terms of you're just more con than you were last season by good teams. It doesn't make sense. You're right. Like if I'm being honest, I still can see these teams making it to grands. I think that's just my bias based off of like the name value of them, but. Like, you're right to question, like, does this make sense to go back to these guys? Like, I think it's a valid take. I'm going to say it's a hot take just to spark some fire. I think it's actually a pretty valid take. Like, I don't think it makes sense.
Here's a question I have before we move on this. Do you believe that when we post this screenshot or this clip on Twitter of this tier list, if that's the way this goes, that any of the teams who are in Are You Sure that we've put there will sit and go, are we sure? Like, are we sure this is what we want to do with this?
No, I'm going to have every German in my DMs as soon as this clip gets posted.
Well, I think the beauty of it, right, is obviously, like, with the nature of the divisional cups, if we're going off of what we saw last season, is that, like, because it is just really cash cups, people will split. And so, like, there's a good chance that some of these Are You Sure teams, and any of the teams on this list, right, like, could just split. Like, if I'm being honest, Reet, Vergo, Shadow could just split after, like, 2 weeks of divisional finals. Yeah. If like, Vergo and Shadow are like, this Reet, people the mouse thing, I'm not really feeling it, like, they might just split. So it's like, I expect a lot of these teams to change. Not a lot, but I expect a decent amount of these teams to change. And I do think some of them are already thinking, are we sure? Like, I think they're using these early divisional cups to, like, test it, because scrims haven't been enough to test probably.
So next week, what you're saying is we're going to come back here and we're going to do a segment called You Were Not Sure.
Yeah.
And we're going to list through all the teams who were not sure.
We're going to give ourselves more than a week. Week 5, episode 49 of Fantasia will be us returning to this, seeing if all of them split. Give ourselves as much time as possible. Acorn, Ritual, and Ajerss. Now, this one is interesting because you obviously have the 2 reigning champions in Acorn and Ajerss, and they're playing a Ritual now because they've sort of been forced to play a Ritual because of, Pollo leaving to go play with Pete and Cold. Now the question is, are these guys still champs in your eyes? Or are they not? Because they are going to globals, right? So us putting them in the globals category is like, obviously globals team because they are going to globals already. But are they still champs in your eyes and in your hearts? Teddy, I'm coming to you first, my friend.
I don't think I've ever been more excited to watch a trio across the whole season than this one, given the circumstances of how they came together. This will be pure cinema to watch this team in grand finals. Do I think they're a championship level team? I'm not sure. I think they're probably I think they're probably top of the globals list. But I think this team fits really well together, and I think people forget that Ritual was a pretty good fragger and a pretty good fighter before he was put as the IGL of that duo with Cold and Pollo. So I think this team can do pretty well. They need the Ajerss solo clutches, and they need the perfect plan from Acorn. But I do like this team. I don't see them going back to back, though, unfortunately.
So, are they still contested? Are they still going Mass Meadows? Because I think they're contesting the deal at Mass Meadows.
Yeah, I think right now they're both still conning Mass Meadows. But I might be wrong.
That puts a spanner in the works. Because I wonder if you're Vidil, Cooper, and Sphinx, and you're like, do you actually feel threatened off spawn by Acorn, Ritual, and Aegis? Do you feel like you'd lose off spawn? You've landed there for a season more than them. You know the spot better than they do. You'll have better practice because you will just be playing against. They'll be practicing against Jannisz, Noah, and Rezon, most likely off spawn, right? And I don't know. It's a weird situation. I understand they're trying to claim the best spot or one of the better spots on the map, but it feels like no one's scared of them. I don't know why. It just feels like going into this, no one is really scared of Acorn, Ritual, and Aegis. But on paper, obviously, Acorn and Aegis had a fantastic grand finals, and Ritual, yes, he had a bad grand finals, but the months before that with the divisional cups or the OG cups was sensational, was everything you need in a support player or an IGL, where whatever role he needs to play, right? So if they're uncontested, I would like to put them in champs, because when it comes to a grand finals, I think it's completely different. But if they're going to be contested, it just has to be globals. It can't be higher than that.
Yeah, I think so just out of the question, how does this work? Has the teams disbanded fully?
No.
Are they going to?
So they are. So as of right now, based off the conversation I've had with people, they are waiting to just figure out what happens with Pete, Cold, and Pollo, because there's still a chance that Pete, Cold, and Pollo play a couple of divisional cups, because they have until April, right? So they have like, how many divisional cups is that? Like 3 or 4?
3 or 4, yeah.
Yeah.
They have around 3 or 4 divisional cups to figure out whether or not that makes sense.
So in that instance, if they do disband, does that mean this FNCS has more qualifying slots? Is that how the rules work?
No, because the qualifying slots just go to Vidil's team and Yomzo's team from last season.
Okay, you're right. Okay. I'm just putting in my head, like, is there a scenario where this team's just like, we've already qualled in some weird, odd way? But no, okay. So before I look at this team composition and I think of the way that like Acorn, Pollo, and Ajerss played it last season to win, right? And I think last season showed, I think if anything, Ritual seems to be probably plays a better support player than or a fragger than maybe IGLing for that particular team. So now in this role, how much worse or better do you think he would be than Pollo in this team? Like, obviously, Pollo is like the best support player you can basically have. How much worse is Ritual?
I don't think the last we saw, I don't think it's that much. Like, realistically, for even going off the past year when he was playing with Reet, he was one of the best players. There was a reason he got picked up by Peterbot and Cold. It wasn't because they were doing Make-A-Wish. They were picking up what they thought was the best fighting IGL on the region. So of course he is still, even with one bad grand finals, he is still that caliber of player. He can still have those performances.
Exactly. So for them to, let's just say they're roughly a very similar level caliber of a team who did manage to win FNCS last season, I think it would be a disservice to take them out of a potential winning slot. Because last season, we said the same thing about Acorn, Pollo, and Ajerss the whole time. We were just like, Peterbot's just going to win. Yeah. Most of the podcasts are just Peterbot's going to win. So I think we don't want to make the same mistake this season and just say Peterbot's going to win when this is probably the second best team in the region.
As the person who saved our tier list last season by reminding you all that on paper, a team of Acorn, Pollo, and Ajerss is actually fucking insane for a grand, I would repeat the same sort of sentiment of like, I think on paper in the grands, these guys are at least when I'm looking at the other NA teams there, this should be the second best NA team in that category. I think now based off of just time developing and time spent more, like you're obviously looking at Yomzo, Clicks and them, and then we'll see what happens off spawn between Vidal's team and like these guys, right? Because I think that's going to matter which one of those teams ends up leaving. But the thing I would say again is, and I got, people, I didn't actually get that many people flaming me for this, right? You guys, tried to make a big deal out of it though. Remember when I said, like, when I looked at the grand performance and them winning, I was impressed by all three players. I was impressed by Acorn, Ajerss, and Pollo. But I felt like the players that, like, if you're going to rank influence on winning the grands, who, like, between those three, I felt it was Ajerss, Acorn, Pollo. It's not because Pollo didn't play good. Pollo played out of his mind. He was clutch in game one. Phenomenal. He had big moments, big kills, big damage, like all the stuff you need, right? I just felt that like Ajerss playing like one of the best fraggers of all time for a grand, won all of his clutches. Plus the fact that Acorn actually figured things out as an IGL and was able to be a lot more confident out of night shift was like the difference maker, or the biggest difference makers for them. And so in that sense, if Ritual can get comfortable in his role as a support player, which I genuinely believe he can, and I've been high on the combination of Ritual and Ajerss as a duo from when these guys tried out last season. Yeah, I still think these guys will be a very, very good team, very, very good team.
Agreed.
So I'm happy to put them in. Like, if
you don't get 900 points and get that much worse from Perm Ritual for Pollo. You don't.
Right.
Can I pose a question
fans
to the
would
group?
disagree. Go for it.
Yeah.
Do you think it's a coincidence that Acorn has won every major one? Like he's won 4 of the last 5 on NA. Is that fully a coincidence, or is that something unique about he understands the new chapter better, he understands the metas quicker, and then as the seasons go on, other teams catch up? Is there anything to that, or is it just a pure coincidence and I'm overcooking right now?
I don't think it's a coincidence at all. I think the fact that I think Acorn is one of the best Ajerss of all time, and his fundamentals of the game are so solid that in the earlier grands he's able to figure things out in the grands lobby. Like that, the first major is always people just figuring shit out on the fly because the lobby is so different to anything you played before that. Plus you have to take in the new meta, and then it's like I think he's very good at navigating those scenarios. That is good you mentioned that, because I was going to say that and I completely forgot in my whole spiel. When you do look at the historical performances from Acorn, and I think from Ritual as well, like, best majors, usually the first one, and then it's sort of just random top 5 performances throughout. And I wouldn't be surprised if that's the case again, where it's like, these guys will just be like a top 5 team for the rest of the year. If things stay how they are and these guys stay together, they will just be a top 5 team for the rest of the year, and we'll be talking about them in globals. But I'm fine. I think it's fair to still put them in the champs category.
Put them in champs.
As contenders. I think that's fair to still put them in there.
Yeah.
All right. Fredoxie, Tjino, Pablowingu. Now.
Yeah, I was going to say, you know more about this situation.
Oh no, I wasn't even going to go that. I mean, technically I do, yeah, but I was going to go in a different direction of just stark contrast, talking about Acorn, fucking FNCS pumps, and now we're talking about fucking Pablowingu. Shout out to Fredoxie though, because I think he listens to the podcast, and so he's going to hear this. This is a really interesting situation. Obviously, for the people who aren't as tapped in, Tjino was obviously playing last season with Pinq and Nebs. They made it to grand finals. Tjino traveled to London to play grand finals and lived in Pinq's house. Pinq's mum fed him food. He offered him a place to stay for him and his brother. There was a bond, there was a brotherhood building. This team was a project, there was a direction, there was a vision. There was potential here for something special. And then Tjino took a knife out of Pinq's drawer and stabbed him in the back in game. And now we have a team of Tjino playing with Pablowingu and Fredoxie, who's no longer playing with Trippern and Thomas HD for obvious reasons. Pablowingu obviously didn't make it to Grands last season either, in a bit of a weirder way because of the whole, players getting disqualified things. I still don't really understand what happened there, and I don't really care. But yeah, Tjino went from a team who was made it to grand finals to two players who didn't make it to grand finals, but they are two Danish players. And I think when trying to understand Tjino's rationale, so from Tjino's view, I think, and maybe he'll disagree and maybe other people disagree, I think Tjino wasn't as confident in the vibes of the trio as Pinq and Nebs were. Understandably, I think there probably were times where maybe Pinq was quite harsh on them. Maybe he felt that. I think the way their grands went probably didn't fill him with as much confidence in Pinq because they, sort of like were having a stinky grand until the last two games where they just sort of relied on Tjino's great fighting ability to get some good points out of the games, right? So I think in that sense, Tjino probably thought, maybe I'm not as confident in these guys and confident in the project. I do know he's really close friends with Pablowingu and he's wanted to play with Pablowingu for a long, long time, but probably hasn't been quite at the level for it to be worth for Pablo to play with him. Whereas now it's definitely worth because Tjino's fucking crazy. So now he gets a chance to play with Pablowingu, who I know he's wanted to play with for a long time. And Fredoxie's available as like an IGL, someone who, he can play with and Danish comms, blah, blah, blah. That's how we're here, for the people wondering.
Yeah.
Now, where does that leave these guys?
It's a tricky one for me because I think you made a great point, which I was going to touch on, was the way that Tjino, Nebs, and Pinq actually made it to grands as well as the grands. If you actually think about it, it was a last game solo clutch by Tjino to make it to grands. So already you're thinking, I clutched us to get us to grands, and then you're in grands, you're dudding, and then Tjino popping off in the last two games with his fighting ability gets him a higher placement. So you're not going to have that grands just be filled with confidence, right? And playing with someone like Pablo, as you said, who they were on the same org for a long period of time. I've worked with Tjino and I've been at a boot camp with Tjino and Pablo. I've seen how they've interacted. They were close friends back then, so I assume they are still close friends now.
Yeah.
And this didn't surprise me as much as I think a lot of other people did, because for the main point that you said, that Pablo and Tjino, like, they wanted to play with each other for a long time, right? Where does it leave them in placement-wise? They're landing mass meadows at the moment, contesting Jannisz, Noahreyli, and Rezon. So at the moment in time, that is kind of like the Osborne beef. And I actually think they're on very similar levels of where you have one player who's really performed insanely well. You have Noah on one trio, you have Tjino on another trio. And then you have Fredoxie, who potentially didn't have the performance he wanted to with Thomas and Trippern. And Pablo, obviously, it's a different situation, didn't get to even play heats or grands, right? So I feel like you have very similar trios landing at the same spot in similar circumstances. But for some reason, I just have more faith in this trio because of just solely based on vibes. Because you haven't burnt the bridges already, you haven't messed everything up, you haven't tried to pay people to grief them, you haven't coached people to land on them. They are just good friends who have played together, landing at a spot who will probably want to grind, and if things go wrong, they're not going to start hating each other straight away. So I would put them in grands for myself.
So what you're saying is this team basically entirely relies on the power of friendship.
Hey, that's a lot of Fortnite nowadays, that is a lot of Fortnite.
Yeah.
Like My Little Ponies or something like that. Is that not a My Little Pony thing, like the power of friendship?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay.
Rhys, exposing himself as a brony is really interesting on episode.
I mean,
42.
every podcast you learn something new, of course.
Yeah.
My brony opinion here, I agree. I think there's a grands team in that. I feel like Pablo has been a great player on EU for a long time. I can't remember if he's even had like a top 5. Let me assess the spreadsheet. Hold on.
I think his last year wasn't as good.
It's
He had a
sixth.
bit of a stink, yeah.
Sixth in the first major with Bevies, didn't qual, and then an 18th. And I think the 6th is his best placement. There was a player I'm like, I feel like they could do well, they could perform in grands, but then kind of just doesn't. Verdoxie, I kind of put into the same caliber as that, where I'm like, he's due like a big FNCS performance at some point, but I just don't know when that's going to really happen. I think Chino's the same thing. Like the 3 players where I'm like, there's potential there, but I don't have any confidence to put them up into globals yet, so I'm just going to chuck them into grands, I think.
I think that's fair. I think this team has a lot of the potential in terms of being like a really like one of those like underrated dark horse teams. I think a fragging partnership of like Pablowingu and Tjino like has crazy potential to actually be like one of the better fragging duos on the region. Like genuinely, I think there's like real potential there. So I'm confident in them as much as they didn't make grands, or at least in Fred's and Pablo's case last season. I think these guys should and will make grands. And yeah, in that sense, put them in the grands tier.
Do you think that is an upgrade for all 3 players on that team.
So Pablo is with Kiro and Bevies and Fredoxie. On paper, there's no way it can be an upgrade for Fredoxie with Thomas. It can't be. Like, I mean, like, it just... I mean, based on how they ended up playing, I guess you could say it is, but it's like, there's no way when you look at you have Thomas in your trio, and then you're changing him out, you can't really say it's an upgrade.
For 2 other Danish players, yeah.
Yeah.
Are you sure you can't say it's an upgrade?
Give me your analysis, Levin 2K.
Yeah, okay.
I just think that, like... I think fit matters a lot.
Okay.
And I think dynamics matter a lot. And I think the nature of the dynamics of playing with Thomas are just so unfavorable to the other two. Like, everybody instantly was going into that trio, like waiting for Tripp and Fred to sell Thomas. And that was like the vibe, you know?
Yeah, it was.
So like going from that to go into playing with two like people where there's way less pressure, way less expectation, but talent-wise, you have enough there to outperform what you were doing with the other two. I think it's an upgrade in the situation, at least. Yeah. In terms of just looking player for player, maybe you could, you know, have more of a conversation. But I think the situation's an upgrade for Fred. Like, I think he would be much. I don't know. I don't know how Fred would have felt when he was queuing up at like last season to play with Tripp and Thomas. I would guess that he feels better now. And Pablo.
And I think when you think about Fredoxie, he is a ratty player. He's a player who will key for stuff, who will go and fight things. And I think if you're playing with Tjino and Pablo, it suits the playstyle a lot more than playing with Thomas and Trippern, who Thomas is known to doing well with hard Ajerss, who play structure playstyle, who you put him in a surge base, he will get infinite surge. He will get all the surge you need and more. I think he had most damage, I think, in every single like finals he played basically with them, but they just didn't do well. So
yeah, they just 19th, and he was the most damaging player.
Yeah.
That's a crazy stat in whatever that was in, you know.
Yeah, no, I agree. All right, then the next team then of this fallout, Pinq, Nebs, and Kiro. I'm inclined to just say they're going to be a team that makes grands again. What I think then is a really interesting is the question you posed, Hris. Is this an upgrade for this team? Is this an upgrade for Pinq, Nebs to be playing with Kiro instead of Tjino?
What do you, as someone who is close to Pinq, what do you think? Because I'm sure you have thoughts on this.
I think they probably think it's an upgrade, but I don't know. I feel like the fact that
based on what they need.
Yeah, I think the fact that like a lot of their best moments last season came from like relying on like Tjino's ability to be just like a crazy fighter. I don't know if you get the same from Kiro. Maybe I'm sleeping on Kiro because I've not watched much of Kiro recently. I was not loading up replays to watch Kiro, Bevies, and whoever the fuck. Like I wasn't. Maybe I gotta watch some more Kiro tape and see if he is that guy. Kiro's a crazy surge player. Like his aim is unreal. That's one thing I do remember from the last time I would have watched Kiro. Is he's unreal in that sense. And Nebs is also unreal in that sense. So I'm not sure how they're going to be playing this season. Like if they're playing like surge bases and all that, like this team is crazy good. You got two amazing players for that. I just haven't watched much of how they're playing this season, so I don't know if it will make as much sense.
Yes, I had the same thought, hence why I asked you and dodged the analysis myself.
That's fine. Yeah. That's fine.
Yeah, I put them in grants. I think, as I said, I think most of the moments, I think based on like, you're losing maybe firepower, but if you want to play a structured game of Fortnite with someone who has experience, I think Kiro is a better fit. It just depends what they want. And maybe this will end up that they figure out the meta, they have such a structured way of playing the game, and it just works perfectly, because you have someone with way more experience. Yeah. But if it goes wrong, I think having someone like Tjino was better. I think someone with that capability.
The reason why I think it's an upgrade probably for them actually is just because I do think Kiro probably needs a bit less babysitting.
Yeah.
Like he's not going to move to London.
Or, yeah, one, he's not going to move to London. And two, I think it's like, I could see a world where there was probably times where Tjino, again, in the sense of inexperience, probably just didn't, like Pinq probably had to tell him to do more, like had to spend more time figuring, like helping him to figure out what he needs to figure out. Whereas I do think with Nebs and Kiro, Pinq can just focus on what he needs to focus on and somewhat trust that Nebs and Kiro will handle what they need to handle. and I think that's probably better for this team. So I think both teams ended up in a good spot, if I'm being honest. I think both teams ended up in a good spot.
Agreed.
After your intro, Levin, I'm really invested in the storyline of these two teams. That's all I'll add.
I'm glad you put these two teams in there, Harry, because I think they're two interesting stories to follow in EU outside of like what the top winning teams are doing. All right, we're getting to the fun part because we have question marks on the tier list right now because we have MrSavage, who just got snaked last night as the time we're recording this. Panzer left him. Again, if we're setting up the whole story, MrSavage, Panzer, Mongraal did amazingly in Grands. Panzer did incredibly. He was the MVP of the team. MrSavage and Panzer decided, hey, we need someone who's going to be grinding more. And so they dropped Mongraal. Big decision to drop Mongraal. We know how much Savage enjoyed playing with him and how important that was. They pick up Upple. I've had people pronounce it differently. I'm going to say Upple. And, it feels very much like a choice to accommodate Panzer, right? Get one of his Russian-speaking friends in there, do you know what I mean? Like, get the vibes good for him. Just for Panzer to drop him. And so, now MrSavage has no Mongraal, no trio, no clear-cut options. Yesterday I was watching Pinq stream after it all happened, and Pinq called Savage. And that was the angriest I've heard MrSavage in a while. Like, he clearly was not in the mood. Like Pinq called him and he was like, yo, like, so what's happening? Like, do you want to play tomorrow, like the eval or whatever? And like, Savage was just like, I need to figure things out. You could tell he's not in the mood to talk. And then I think Pinq asked him another question of like, oh yeah, how do you feel? And Savage just cut the call. Yeah, like, he was not happy. Yeah. So, when you guys are watching this podcast, you will know who MrSavage is playing with because it's going to be FNT. Like, he's going to have to be playing with somebody, right? So you guys will know who Savage is playing with by the time we hear this. We don't know as we're filming this. So this is going to be kind of fun because not only do I want us to somewhat guess what his options are going to be and what he does, based off of what your guess is, I want you to predict where they are on the tier list as well. It would be easy to just put him in chumps because he has no team, but I want to play a bit of a guessing game here. What does Savage do?
They definitely both belong in Are You Sure with the two question marks.
For sure.
Yeah. I think the funniest thing that I saw yesterday was, I think Savage, if you watch him play with Upple and Panzer, there's a lot of times where he's trying to bring out the vibes, ask questions. I was the one who was like, what's your favorite animal? Dogs. Oh, I love dogs as well.
Bro, that was so funny, bro.
There was another one. There was another one, I think it was yesterday before he got dropped, and Savage asked Panzer, was like, how do you think we're going to do an FNCS? Yes. Panzer said nothing. He ignored it.
Bro, that's how
he already knew it was happening.
He knew he was going to drop him because they're literally like in the surge base, all just like looking for tags and whatnot. And like you said, he's just there like, yeah, so Panzer, like, how do you think we'll do? Actual crickets. Like, it was so uncomfortable to watch. Like, genuinely, it was so uncomfortable to watch. Who's out there for MrSavage? I don't know.
No, I've got a list of some players. I can just read
give us
some
a
out.
list of options here. MrSavage.
So Robban and Maffy, Tjino, and Kiduoo Sato. There's like Gabix and Belusi, obviously Mongraal, Hutty, Marco, Akira, Syned, Kovacs, Focus and Fast Strokey, Mappy's out there. You got Prism and Kasparinovic. You've got like Head and Zabi. These are kind of like the level of players at the moment that are available. Which, to be honest, the only one you'd probably say is like an upgrade on your situation you're going into the season with is Tjino. It's the only one. And if any of us know what Tjino will do, if Tjino dies once to one player, he will land on that player in opens. He'll stream stream side them, he'll Q snipe them, he'll do whatever it takes to grief someone. And I just don't think I could never see a world, first of all, Tjino playing on stream, but also Savage playing with Tjino. I just could never see a world that happened.
I think Savage tried to ask Tjino to play before and Tjino egoed him. I don't think Tjino would want to play with Savage, at least based off of what happened before.
Yeah. It's funny because the situation, from what I gather, Mongraal actually has a trio. Like, he has a trio he's going to try, which is Prism and Kasparinovic. who quote globals last year.
Interesting. Are they actually gonna play with him? Are they gonna drop the thingy to play with him?
They don't have a trio at the moment, Prism and Casper.
Oh, I
they
thought
tweeted
were,
looking for.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah, so they tweeted today for eval, but basically they DM'd. I think it was in like the Savage community. I saw it was like him. It was basically that Prism said, "Yeah, we're gonna play a Mongraal unless Mongraal plays with Savage." That's basically it. So we could end up in a situation where Mongraal and Savage are just back together, and I would not be surprised if we see that again.
I mean, are the other options any better at this point? You know, like who's free? I saw someone say like playing with Chap.
No,
Chap's in a trio.
Chap's in a great team. We're gonna talk about Chap in a sec.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I just looked to the next team. You're right.
I think if you want underrated players, you pick up Ankido and Sato. They're both fighters. Ankido, a German fighter. Sato, who played with Anderlecht, a French fighter. I think if you want pure fighting ability and just pick up two underrated players, Savage go with the Panzer situation again, you do that. That is 100% what you do.
Pick those two up and just let Bloodettes cook. I mean, that might be the strat, honestly.
But then you have to let Savage IGL again, and I don't think Savage is best poised to be an IGL. Like he's too good at fighting and supporting and like understanding to be put in a position to like lead and tarp everyone.
But I'm just looking at the option. I'm like, are any better IGL?
Right,
yeah, I know that's the problem.
Right?
Though. Yeah,
if he's gonna look for an IGL, I just don't see who there makes any sense for him to have a somewhat decent season. So.
Man, this is so sad. This is not what I expected.
Yeah, no.
I was expecting when I saw Apple tweet looking for trio, I was like, "Oh my god, it's Thomas, Panzer, and Savage." I'm so ready.
That's what I thought. I thought they just dropped Apple to pick up like a goat, and then it's like, no, my boy MrSavage is screwed. I think
would it?
I think we start on Mongraal because Mongraal is a trio we know already. Like we know, but that is from what I've seen.
To be honest, I think we just unfortunately have to just put Savage in the Are You. I think no matter what he does, we're gonna be there questioning it. So Savage is gonna have to go to Are You Sure?
It's just so.
Oh, sorry. Finish what you said.
It's just so sad for MrSavage. I always feel like it's one step forward, two steps backwards for him. Every single year, second place in FNCS trios, and then he's contested for the next 3 FNCSs straight, and then Benji quits, and we need 4 consecutive seasons of great MrSavage luck performance.
You finally got Uncon. You got the one Uncon season into just no trio, no nothing.
And they did really well, like way above expectations.
Way above expectations, did good. And hey, look, it's not all bad for Savage. He's probably going to still win a land this year. Wink, wink. We'll talk about that in a second.
Yeah.
All right. Mongraal playing with Casper and Prism. Is this a team that is making grand finals? Is there a world where Mongraal makes grand finals this season and Savage doesn't? Holy shit.
Genuinely, yes.
Put him in grands. Put him in grands right now, just for the storyline.
I think it's funny because like there's been a lot of things from Prism's perspective about like how he's been saying like, I don't care if we don't grind. Like I don't care if we don't grind. We got tournaments, so it's ready. If I'm getting to play with Mongraal, I don't care. But they made globals. They came 11th last year. Like they were on an upwards trajectory last year. They just made I think 3 grands in a row. I'm pretty sure it was, or made 2 grands in a row. And yeah, they were on a good run this season. It didn't work out for them in heats, but not even heats in play-ins. But I just think they're 2 good players. I wouldn't be surprised to see them in grands if they have a landing spot they can play off, and they have their duo chemistry already. Just slot Mongraal in there, let Mongraal do whatever Mongraal wants, and yeah, I think it would work out.
Prism and Casper?
17. I was going to say this.
This feels like 2 people, because obviously they, this feels like 2 people who are just massive Mongraal fanboys when they were younger, who are just like, wait, I get the chance to play with him. I don't care what version of Mongraal this is. I get to play with my fucking idol. Let's do it, It's like fucking... I don't know.
But for Mongraal, it's a good trio. That's the problem.
It works.
Yeah.
I think as soon as we started talking about this, I opened up Prism's Twitter just to check to see how old he was, because I was going to say the exact same thing you just said.
Yeah.
Casper's 18, Prism 17, yeah.
You got to play to your advantages if you're Mongraal, though. You got to play to those advantages. If you're just one of the great Fortnite celebrities of all time.
For sure.
You will have fans who are now,
It feels like if Neymar went to to Fluminense to play with Ronaldinho, because he's like, that's my idolo, man. I got to play with my idol, before he retires. That's what it feels like. For the football fans who'll get that reference. Okay. Mongraal, I agree with Hris. Put them in grands. They're making
Put 'em in
grands.
grands.
Book it. Book it.
Mongraal fans should be really happy about that because it means if Mongraal is qualling for grands with another trio that's not Savage, it means that the comeback is extremely real.
Yeah.
And he wants to accomplish more, and he's going to keep. Maybe he won't grind. Maybe he's not a tier 1 grinder, but he'll keep going, and that'd be a good sign if you're a Mongraal fan.
The question is, and I don't know why this hasn't been explored yet. With Mongraal being on holiday, could MrSavage just steal his trio?
He could, yeah, genuinely.
Like, it would be a dick move, but in theory, maybe these guys are just the biggest Mongraal fans ever and they don't care for Savage. But in theory, if they're willing to just play with Mongraal because it's like big name, blah, 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 whatever, I don't care if he grinds, whatever. Surely if MrSavage is like, hey, but I'll play with you lot as well, they'd go, oh, maybe.
Game is game.
I would be, that would the storyline, I would be ready for. And then Mongraal can test Savage the whole season, then we get them beefing off spawn the whole time.
And then we get a celebrity boxing match at the end of the year, maybe following globals, that'll be it. There you go.
Yeah, that's it.
We need the MrSavage heel turn. Betray Mongraal, steal his team, and then we just fucking have a rivalry. Mongraal versus Savage for a whole year. Unreal. All right. Kiduoo, Chap, Shxrk. Now, this is a very interesting team because you have Chap and Shxrk, who are two of the hottest names in EU Fortnite right now. Of course, Chap had his phenomenal breakout year in 2024. Shxrk is having his breakout year in 2025. He's had some great performances. Anybody who analyzes the game of Fortnite has been highlighting this guy as a top player in the region, top fighter. Now, playing together with Kiduoo as the IGL choice. Now, I'm sure a lot of people look at this team and instantly go like, Kiduoo, is this the best option? Kiduoo is a decent IGL, German speaking, and Kiduoo works with Raz, so these guys are working with Raz. So you have Kiduoo, Chap, and Shxrk working with Raz, which I guess it adds a buff in it. Like, if you hear this trio, you might go, okay, well, that's cool. But then when you hear, but they're working with Raz, then you go, oh, okay, I'm interested. I'm a bit more interested here, yeah.
Especially with aggressive players.
Especially with two of the best fighters in the land. There's some potential there. I'm going to leave the floor to you guys on this one at first. I have some thoughts, but I want to hear from you guys.
So, I want to put them in globals, but I have a worry about their off-spawn situation. They're contesting iDrop Sky and Scroll at Shiny Shafts, which I feel like could become problematic. And that is where, obviously, when it comes to grands, one of them will probably end up dipping, it's just how it is, right? But obviously, just going off right now where we don't know that, and it might end up they're contesting grands, then that's obviously a question mark over them, right? And you made a great point. Like, Kiduoo is a great player, and he is working with Raspberry, but he didn't have the greatest of seasons last season. He did have a good last year. He did really well in duos last year. But there are still some question marks over him. And Chap also, I've been a fan of Chap for like a while, seeing how he's playing. He had probably his worst season since his come up, right? I actually think he played very below the level that he should be playing at. Maybe that's the change to trios. We haven't seen Chap play trios. Maybe it is just a situation where he's not as good in trios, right? We don't know that. But I still want to put them in globals because I think the ceiling is so high for them. I think the ceiling of this trio, Shxrk, who is very quickly becoming the best fighter on EU, or one of the best solo players on EU. Chap, who last year was the best fighter on EU, or one of the best fighters on EU, and Kiduoo, who is a good fighting IGL. It has the potential to be a globals team, so I'd want to put them in there. But there are still some question marks over them for me.
So, I agree with you, but I also think with teams who have really high ceilings when it just comes to fighting playstyle, they also just have like really low floors because in a grand finals, if that doesn't work, obviously, like we said, we're already working with Raz, which means they're going to have options for playstyle, but if it doesn't work, a lot of those teams often just don't perform that well. You see them kind of bottom them out and being a bit disappointing. So for me, I'm going to put them in grands. I feel like the potential's there. I think this could be a globals level team. I want to see it first before I could really actually say, are these guys going to be it or not?
Okay. Hris, I feel like we're so on point together sometimes. Maybe it's the old analysis duo on FNCS.
That's it. We just share so many brainwaves, Because
I agree in that, in terms of when you're looking at ceilings, it's like the potential is great. You genuinely have two of the best fighters in the region. Like, you know, when people are going like, you know, Vico and Flixie are always going to be fine because they can just fight anyone and win more often than not. Like, you look at Chap and Shxrk probably in a similar way. However, the floor. Remember earlier, Reese, when you were talking about like teams like this where it makes sense. Sometimes it just crumbles. My fear is this is going to be one of those crumble situations, and part of that is because I wonder, like, in terms of just like the chemistry, like you need Chap and Shxrk to develop something together where they fight together really well. And I'm gonna go out on a limb and say early, I don't think that's gonna happen. Shxrk was really great, and I've had nothing but positive things to say about Shxrk. Him and Drew didn't have great fighting chemistry. Like they weren't on the same page in endgames all the time. When I watched them, at least early on in the last season. Chap is someone who, again, I think as good as he is, like sometimes it is just like his way. Like he's just doing his thing. And so like you need those two to be on the same page. Like if those two can develop some sick chemistry together where they're like just unstoppable, then I'm much more positive about this team. You know, obviously working with Raz makes a big difference for these guys in terms of when you're looking at their ceiling. I think it's more likely that like they try and just play to what the strengths of the trio is to try and make something work. And in that sense, we'll see how it goes. The Arsenal situation as well, you're right. I watched a session of theirs yesterday. I don't know who it was off spawn. I don't know if it was iDrop in that session, but they were winning off spawn in the session I watched. It might have been against random, so it's irrelevant, but they look like they can be decent off spawn. I wouldn't, you know, be surprised if they're able to do something there, but this is a Grands team for sure. Whether or not they become a Globals team after the 5th week of divisional finals remains to be seen. I like this team on paper. I think they can be really good. Trippern, Refsgaard, and Anas as the next team. Unfortunately, I have so much love for all of these three. Like Trippern is my dog. That's my friend right there. I love Trippern. Refsgaard, cool guy. Anas, probably the nicest guy in the Fortnite world. Are you sure this is the trio you want to queue up with?
I thought you were going to devastate them and just put them in chumps in the team. I thought that's the setup you were giving us there.
It could be, but I think all of these guys have something still to give. This is like the most unk trio we have of all the trios.
52 the age of 60 plus. Age. It's more than that.
As lying, as they're saying on the timeline.
Yeah, I was because I actually looked it up. I actually want to know. I can't find Anis's age, but Trippern 20, Refsgaard 21, or I think it's the other way around.
Like 20 as well. Like Anis
so it might be 62 then. He's just minus 10 off it.
Like all of these guys have something left to give, I think. You know,
and to prove.
Right? You know, you look at what happened to Trippern last season, where he was getting a bunch of the flack off of the Thomas trio. Somewhat undeservingly in some ways. Refsgaard obviously was looking really good with iDrop with Sky and Scroll. They pick up iDrop instead. You know, you have Anas who had a quiet season, but he was competing, he was playing. I think he almost got like he was in groups, maybe, you know, or maybe he missed.
He was one place off and didn't get to play because people didn't get banned in time. So
yeah, you know, all these guys I think have a fight. I think you put each of them with like 2 young goats, and like they can still make grands fairly like easily. Yeah. Unfortunately, this team doesn't have enough firepower. It's missing the spark that makes this a clear Grands team.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if this team doesn't qualify to any divisional cup finals, but just makes heats and makes Grands because they have the experience. Like I generally could just see a world that happens, that they just will end up being a good finals team. Yeah, they pull up when it matters most, you know. But I think I'm excited in a way of like, I think all these players have kind of been disrespected for a long period of time, as you said, like the whole things to prove, and especially Trippern. I think he made a tweet about it where he was like, "Why does everyone think I'm shit?" Like, and it's generally like half of the reason is because, you know, it's just damage numbers. You know, if you're not topping damage numbers and you're playing with someone like Thomas and you're not doing well, people are just going to think you're bad. Even though Trippern is a player who has been extremely good for a long period of time within Fortnite, you don't stay at this level for this long.
Teammates was Trippern. Think about that. I used to compete.
I don't know if that's a good or bad
before
thing.
There was no, but that's I'm talking when you're talking about like how long. Like I have he sent me a screenshot recently of like an old like comp Discord. Like this is literally back before like tournaments were a thing in Fortnite, and It's me, him, a bunch of old Fortnite pros that nobody would know. Guys like Razaru were in the call back when they were pros. Shxrk was in there when he was a player, not a coach. Most people probably didn't even know he used to play comp and not actually be a coach. Like, Trippern's been around for so long, and he's still good. Like, we saw it in the markup, like, in solos, like, he was deep. Like, it's not like this guy's just bad. I don't know. Like you said, it's like, all of these guys, I think, have that, an element of, like, people just think they're bad, and it's not the reality. They're not bad. None of these guys are bad.
I think it's with Trippern, I think it's because he's not a tier 1 player. And I think when you're on EU and you have like all these big names, it's like people, if you qual to like every single grand finals and then they're never like placing in the top 3, people just they just forget who you are almost because you're not Thomas HD. Exactly, but, right? You know?
Trippern has some legitimately great placements. He came second in Trio FNCS. He came 4th in LAN. What did they do in the FNCS that Vino won in Chapter 3, Season 2? 3rd? 4th?
Let me open the sheet. Chapter 3, Season 2, he was 3rd with Thomas, yeah. But then everyone's just like, oh, you got carried by Thomas, you know?
Right.
Yeah.
Because that's what I mean. If you're not like the star, it's really hard to be respected. And of course, like he does have some really good accolades. So yeah, hopefully we see good for him. Refsgaard will always be the best player in my eyes because he took me to Duo Cash Cup finals. So basically,
I was about to say
he must literally be Bugha. So
we both have teammates on this
I was
team,
worried you were going to put him in
yeah.
Chump's race to make your accolades all the more impressive.
Oh, you're right. Yeah, get these guys in chumps. Sorry. Absolute shatters here. Yeah, get him down. No, and then Anas is like, I don't know. Everyone just seems to forget how good like Anas was because he's just. He's just, I don't know, obviously I don't really know, but it just seems like he's just been playing every now and then just for like a bit of fun. He's too rich.
Literal millionaire.
But the potential is there in all of them, you know?
The potential is that I just think they all need to be playing with like people who are like better fighters. Because that's the one, that is the one genuine weakness where it's like, if these guys need to fight, like it's not strong. Like the little I watched of Anas last season, it felt like watching Anas like from chapter 2 again, where it was like he wasn't really doing anything wrong. It was like he's not going to make much mistakes, right? Like and you'll hit the occasional bang here and there, you know. So it's like all of these guys are still good. I think they just need to not play with each other.
I remember after me and Refsgaard played that duo cash cup, I was asking about teammates after that, and he was like, "Yeah, I don't know. I'm just I'm going in. You know, I'm trying to find an IGL." And I was like, "You're fragging? Are you fragging, Refsgaard?" And he was like, "Yeah. Like I've always been a fragger." And I was like, "But you IGL'd me so good. Like maybe it's your time to be an IGL. You know, maybe it's your time. So maybe now is his time. You know."
Yeah.
Do you think Savage has DM'd Refsgaard? They've played together in the past. Do you think Savage has been in the Discord?
No, I don't think he has.
Okay, that's true.
I don't think he has. And then our last team, Champs, really.
Yeah, they are Champs. Yeah.
You about cold Pollo, Champs. I don't know what they're thinking getting together.
Well, they are technically in Are We Sure? Like they're literally Are We Sure? They're figuring it out. They're taking 4 tournaments to figure it out.
Yeah.
Technically, you are correct, Teddy.
Yeah.
You are correct. They are technically an Are You Sure team. Because after week 3 of the FNCS divisional weekly finals, whatever the fuck the name is, I keep making it up every single time. This team might just decide, actually, this wasn't the cook we thought it was. And the standard for that being the case is whether they win all 3. Because last season, Peterbot and Cold won every single one. Yeah. And I genuinely, I do wonder what the standard is going to be. Like, what makes them decide whether or not this is the cook they thought it was or not?
I guess you just get that feeling. Maybe it's dominating tournaments, because I think the one thing we said every single week last week, which is they were winning every single divisional cup, but it was close. Like, it was in reach for a lot of teams. There's a lot of weeks where it's like, if they didn't clutch last game, but that is obviously part of it, but they were going into last game not 150 points ahead, like you'd expect from Peterbot, right?
Yeah, they'd always win the last game, and then that would give the gap that makes it look like they won by like 200 points or whatever. But exactly. Like, no, it was close going into that last game.
So I think they're just expecting domination. I think that's genuinely it. If you have to, if you're making a big move like this, you have to expect to just be dominating set lobbies. If they're, if it feels like it's scuffed and they're dying to surge and stuff like that, which is a rare thing, then I think they might have to think about changing.
do you guys think they have to win the first divisional cup to stay together, or do you think if they top 3, it's not perfect the whole time? They made this big drastic decision together, they'll stick with it for a few tournaments, or do you think they'll know right away, and if they don't win the first one, they'll start
I reckon you just
questioning
stick
it
until the last second.
Yeah.
As late as physically possible before you make that decision. That would be my idea.
I think Peterbot's already getting bored of Cold not playing the game.
It
From
does
if you
sound that
watch,
way.
Yeah.
like if you listen to the streams, it just sounds like that he's so annoyed that that Cold isn't playing the game. He's like, I don't have to baby him. I shouldn't have to beg him to play customs. Like he should just want to play it, right?
Yeah.
I think there's a world that the trios end up actually being Acorn, Peterbot, and Pollo. I actually think there's a world.
So I was going to say that is the next step.
Yeah.
The next step is they don't win, right? And so Peterbot goes, maybe like Peterbot's never gonna outwardly give himself any blame, but the blame goes to Cold, and I think internally he goes, let me just pick up Acorn, who's I know is actually a good IGL, as much as we've had our online shouting at each other. I think that would probably be the next step, the next option. And in that world, it's over, man.
Is it though? Because I
get the old OG trio.
I don't think Peterbot. I think Peterbot should be leading an IGL. I've said this a few times on the show, and I don't think picking up a guy like Acorn fits the playstyle that he has very well. Like I think all of his most successful placements are him IGLing. Obviously they've been duos realistically, but like I think all those big performances, it's his game plan and everyone else is working around it rather than having someone else lead it. Now, I believe Acorn is a good enough IGL to create a good enough game plan for Peterbot and Pollo. But still, it's I still think having Peterbot leading and having 2 people with him and just working like a 3-headed dragon or something is the way to go.
I think that's the only scenario though that everyone signs the contract. Because you get the Acorn Cold ritual, which was the trio they had in OG, which was winning tournaments, which is doing all of that. So you get that trio back, and Acorn, who obviously doesn't want to sign the contract, is playing now with Peterbot and Pollo, so he'd sign the contract. I think that is the only scenario where everyone's happy.
Okay,
and everyone's on the trio.
I've got it. They do that, and then they sign the contract, and then they just go back to their old teams.
I thought about this as well. Like they could just say, Acorn, we're going to play with you. This next we're going to play divisional cups. We're going to play this. Like, Cold's already not playing the game, so you might as well replace him for a week. Like, just... Yeah. And there's like, they win a divisional cup. It's like, look, we're going to sign the contract. We're popping off. And there's like, actually, nah.
No, honestly, that unfortunately is an actual possibility, which is why I like a lot of this will hinge on like Acorn's mental fortitude here, and which is why I hope they do good, because if they do good, then he has no real incentive. Like if they actually just win, like he has no incentive to do it. Like the weird thing is just like what the fuck is the situation, man? Like, why like, you know what I mean? Like why is this even like we're here like like if they don't win by 200 points and maybe he snakes to trick him into signing the form to snake again. Like, this is some BS.
Battle of the egos. That's what this is, man. Yeah.
That would actually be so smart, though. They intentionally throw the first divisional cup. Peterbot messages Acorn, messages Ajerss, hey, I'm not so sure about Cold. I'm not so sure about Pollo. I think I made a mistake. Gets the form signed. And then they revert back and they just win everything. Because I think we say all this stuff
first, guys.
I think we say all this stuff, and then Peter, Cold, and Pollo are just gonna have an all-time dominant season.
Yeah.
If you're Acorn, the way you protect yourself is you say, "Okay, we'll do that, but you, Cold, and Ritual have to sign the forms first."
Yeah.
Because they're the team that like you will sign your forms, then we'll think about it, and then if it works out, we'll sign our forms. That's how you like. Protect yourself. These guys
actually
obviously
about
in
them
champs.
as a trio.
Yeah, these guys actually are, of course, in champs tier. The expectation will be they just win everything. And I think they're capable of doing that. But like you rightly highlighted, Harry, Cold not playing scrims, I do think is starting to be an issue. especially just because again, like if they're not winning everything, that's going to be the first place people look.
Yeah.
But do we think it's some combination of these top 6 players that win FNCS no matter what? Maybe it shakes out a little bit differently, but I mean, they're by far the front runners.
I don't see Khanada getting into that though. Sure, like in terms of, do you mean like some combination of these players, assuming they'll split, and then you like pick up someone else from another team, or is it just these 6 players are just rotating around in other teams?
I guess there could be someone coming in, but it does seem like these 6 players, if they split, they'll end up in some combination of the other trio. I guess unless Boltz, if Boltz is really locked in, and this high ceiling conversation that we had about a half hour ago is correct, then maybe I could see Boltz and or Rapid ascending to that tier. But it does seem like these 2 teams are just going to go back and forth trading players until the forms get signed, or until they're Peterbot's basically happy with whatever trio he's currently on.
Does Peterbot just pick up Ajerss? And it's Ajerss for your Peter?
That form also will never get signed again. That's the problem. That form is never getting signed, I don't think. Because I don't think Acorn, if Acorn loses Ajerss and Pollo, never in a million years is he signing that form.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, it's interesting. Because to be fair, like I do think if they Peter picking up Acorn gets the form signed, because I think Ritual Code and Ajerss would sign because they played with each other and they looked good when they played with each other. But then, is it just manipulation from Peter when that happens? Who knows?
What's more fun? What's more fun? The forms get signed somehow through some grand 3D chess design strategy by Peterbot, or the forms remain unsigned all year. These duos stick, and then they have to revert back for globals. What do you guys think is more fun?
As an EU fan, don't sign the contracts. You have Peterbot playing with the wrong trio for the whole year, going into globals. Just don't sign them. I'm happy with that. But like actual like. What's probably more enjoyable? I think the more enjoyable thing is don't sign it until the last second, and then sign it and see just what happens when he signs it. Because I think if they sign the contracts, it's just going to end up with like, I don't know. I think even though those trios would end up being the trios, like, you know, obviously the OG trio and Peterbot Cold and Peterbot Pollo Ajerss would have to be Peterbot Pollo Acorn, would have to be the trios. I just don't think those 6 end up staying those trios. I feel like one of them would go, you know, let's say, for example, I know Click's trio, probably not, but let's say hypothetically, like, Click's the Yomzo, just go, like, to Ajerss, do you want to play in this trio instead? There's a world he could say yes, you know? Like, I just think it opens up so many opportunities and the chaos that could happen.
Yeah, I feel that. Yeah, this is what we think of the new teams. Don't know why we had the Trumps category. Should just delete, bro. Yeah, there you go.
Never know.
There you go.
Never know.
That's good.
Never know.
That's good. All right. That was good. That was a fun experiment, thought experiment. We've had a couple things that we're going to talk about real quick. First things first, in the world of competitive Fortnite, we had another update in terms of cheaters. Epic have added a new rule where essentially you have to enable some sort of BS in the back. I'll read the tweet. This is a reminder that Windows PC players need to enable 2 Windows security features, TPM and secure boots, to compete in events that require an account level of 350 or higher. Now, I don't know about you guys. I don't know much about this. I'm not going to pretend to know much about this. So unless one of you knows a lot about this and so you want to give us the rundown, I'm going to ask one of you to explain it as best as you can, and we go from there.
No clue.
Okay.
I did Google it, and I even Googled DMA plus TPM and secure boot. People were confused. I don't even think... Most people don't have a clue what's going on. My interpretation of this is it's because you're using secure boot and TPM. I don't know what TPM is, but because they're using these 2 settings, it's more than likely more difficult for a third party to access your PC, aka what a DMA card would, aka a cheating device on another PC, and it'd be easier to check because this is like a BIOS level thing, really deep in the PC, and it'll be easier for Epic's anti-cheat to detect if these settings are on more than anything else, or it's harder to actually use it.
I saw someone say that this isn't a big thing for DMA, but for like a lot of other cheats, it makes it easy because a lot of other cheats access your PC through not having these TPM stuff enabled at the BIOS level. So I saw a lot of people saying this would help. This will help with a lot of like other cheats other than DMA. I know this is a thing that like some other games do. Like I know Valorant has it so that like with their anti-cheat system, you have to have these enabled as well to like just load Valorant up. If you don't have them on, you can't even turn the game on. So this isn't something out of the norm. If I'm being honest, the one thing I would say that was surprising to me is whenever people used to ask me about like, oh, like, you know, do you think, you know, Epic will ever go to like Valorant's levels? You know, the one thing about Valorant's anti-cheat in terms of criticism that they've received is just like, it's one of the most intrusive anti-cheats in the sense of like, they will dig into your PC more than any other company really will, just to make sure you're not cheating, right? Which some people are against, understandably, from like security levels, you know, intrusiveness, whatever. And I never would have expected Epic to be like, hey, turn this off in your BIOS to play our tournaments. Now, it's good at it. I guess they're not doing it as a game-wide thing, which is maybe the way they've gotten around it. But just to play our tournaments, you have to have this on is interesting to me. But it's also a good thing.
It's also just cash tournaments. Like an account level 350 requirement is not required for like, you know, skin cups and the OG cups and the rank cups. So it really is like a minimal amount of people who are affected.
Interesting.
Yeah, I mean, as long as your PC hasn't been tweaked, you probably are fine with this, right? That's realistically, that's the only scenario that people might have a problem with this is when you've had your PC tweaked by someone.
Yeah, for the people watching who are competitive players, like go on the tournaments, and I think you will know whether or not they're unlocked, right? Like if
I'm going to check that because that had disappeared. So
okay, well, either way, to stop you from panicking, worst case scenario, like most people have this on by default, like. I think isn't technically the best way to check if you have this on is to try play Valorant.
Probably,
another game. If you aren't sure, just download Valorant, load it up. If it works, you probably have these settings enabled, is my guess here. If not, you'll figure it out. I'm sure you'll be fine.
Fine.
I think Epic should just tweet, now we know you're cheating. We'll detect it 100%. If when we catch you, you'll be banned from the game forever. We'll sue you, and you'll be forced to make a video apology. Yeah. That should be the tweet next time if the problem continues.
These sassy tweets, they like them.
No, they do like them, but they definitely need to fearmonger more, which I think they're doing. Like, keep fearmongering. I'm down for it. Let's get the cheaters shaking a bit, get them scared. This wasn't the only big Fortnite announcement though, because we had the Fortnite FNCS Pro AM was announced. We are seeing the return of Proms. It will be in the Gallon Center at the USC campus in Los Angeles. Yeah, we're going to LA for Fortnite, but it's a Pro Am. So essentially, we're going to see some creators, some pros invited. It's going to be a reload tournament. They were hyping this up. They were doing like a whole. They literally did a stream where they had a 50-minute countdown for a 1-minute video just explaining what it was, and people are not too happy. But what I will say is, and I want to get your thoughts on this, guys, I think most people are pretty like excited at the prospect of a Pro-Am. Weirdly enough, I think a lot of people have missed having like Pro-Am type things. I know a lot of people wanted a solo cup and this to be a solo LAN. But I think the general consensus I saw across a lot of social media was a lot of people like, oh yeah, it'll be cool to see some of our favorite creators at a LAN setting. Like, we've not had something like that in a while.
Yeah, I mean, like, I think I understand why competitive players are frustrated. You know, you hear about, you know, rumblings of maybe a LAN's happening or maybe a tournament's happening mid-year. Obviously, you want it to be competitive. However, for just enjoyment of the game, having creators play competitive and play with like other competitive players is just good for the game. I just feel like it's a beneficial thing. They'll probably end up selling more tickets than the globals would, to be honest, because a lot of people want to see their favorite creator, want to be able to meet them and watch them play Fortnite live. I feel like that might end up being the situation, but in general, I just think this is like I have no real like bad things to say about it. It's another tournament. It'll be fun to watch. It'll be like there'll be some cool moments in it, and it's just a positive for the competitive, in my opinion.
Yeah. I think I'm not invited, therefore it's bullshit, so I don't like it. Boo-hiss. No, it's cool. It's cool. I think the big thing is, like, obviously, we have just been asking for more LANs, more in-person events, more just stuff. And one of the things I've been given feedback to Epic specifically about was the fact that, you know, a few years ago, forget even LANs and in-person events, we just missed fun tournaments, right?
Yes.
Like, all of the free tournaments that have no cash prizing right now, you know, like rank cups and all that kind of stuff. Like, sure, they're they're bringing in people to play, but like, there's nothing super interesting or special. Like, when they're doing like Lasers Cup, where they had the lock-on pistol or whatever it was that fired you across the map,
like
the flintlock, the juiced up flintlock pistol. I'm like, that was so fun. A little prize pool, that'd be cool. So I just think more interesting tournaments, more small things like that are very well needed. And in this instance, like, this is it on a larger scale with creators, with a bigger production. So I think that's sick. Am I disappointed that it's not a solo LAN? Absolutely. I would have been sick. But this is absolutely better than nothing. So, big W. Invite me next time. I'm a content creator who makes competitive content. Come on, guys. Yeah, imagine the video. Imagine the video and the hype.
You would make a video that gets millions of views, which would be good. So,
absolutely. Yeah. Fumble. Epic Games fumble right here. That's
Hris about that. If they're not, at least get you out there, like, to be like an analyst on a broadcast or something. Like, let's throw it back. Let's run it back. You can still make a video. Come on.
No. I need to. Here you go. It's in what, 3 months from now?
Yeah.
3 months from now, right? The thing is, unlike other content creators, I'd be grinding. The reload for those 3 months. First half of the video, the prep, the planning, everything that goes into it. Find my teammate, whoever the pro is, amazing. Then the rest is the actual tournament. Obviously, we win regardless of who the other players are because we just do. And then it's like how I won a LAN. Boom, you get like 2 million views. There you go, done.
You should do the run back with Refsgaard. That should have been it. Like the run back. You called to. Oh. You didn't get to play the finals. This is the finals that you'd be able to play.
Yeah, they milked. Anyway, yeah. Enough about me.
I'm just imagining that video.
I know.
I'm very happy imagining that video. I think it would be a full cook.
I'm not imagining that video. I'm definitely not.
You're messing out.
I think this is a bonus, right? So it's hard to be mad about something that nobody expected, was announced all in the same day. Solo LAN, obviously, I think the game needs a solo LAN at some point. I think it's really important for figuring out who the next great tier of players are. That being said, this is going to grow the game. There's going to be lots of creators, Courage, Cypher, etc., who will stream with their duo for the lead up. Because the current tier of Fortnite stars all came from the World Cup era, the MrSavage, the Mongraals, the Clixes, like the Bughas, like the hyper huge millions of followers type of stars. They came from LAN. They had the epic machine behind them, and this is an opportunity for that epic machine to promote the next era of players, maybe the Vicos, the Peterbots, etc., as kind of crossing the chasm from tier 1 Fortnite Pro to Superstar. So hopefully they come up with a good way to make that work. I do think at the tournament there's going to be some epic moments. One of these Vicos or whoever they end up inviting. Do we want to guess some of the names that they're going to invite? Is that known?
It's not known, but yeah, we don't really know yet who's invited. We kind of have an idea because certain people tweeted, like Mongraal and Savage and Click all tweeting, and obviously those
of course they're gonna go right.
Right, I think they're gonna obviously have creators, and they're gonna have sort of like the biggest named
pros.
Yeah, like biggest name pros that they can. So yeah, we don't know yet. But yeah, I think we'll slowly start to figure that out. I wonder when they will just announce that, because if you're selling tickets, you kind of want to make that more clear. Because we know some creators, I think some creators were like retweeting it and stuff. So like, again, you can probably make some guesses.
And there's people in the trailer too.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, some of the people in the trailer as well you'd think are just the ones who are drawing. But that would be awkward if someone's in the trailer and they're not. But yeah, we'll see. I will say... Go on.
Sorry, Levin. One last thing. Invite-only tournaments are smart for Epic because it gives them some leverage over the players. If they want to get an invite, they have to be on their best behavior, etc. So maybe if Epic wants certain things in the community, they can always dangle these invites as an incentive.
I mean, it's funny because there was a lot of people who were like, well, I'm not getting invited because Epic hates me. And it's like, oh yeah, don't be a crap.
That's your own fault.
Epic won't hate you. Yeah. All right, cool. Let us know in the comment section what you think of the Pro-Am, if you're excited for it, what you want to see there, etc., etc. Who you want to see there as well. If there's anyone you want to see there, let us know. All right, we got game show time.
Ooh.
Let's do it. Let's do it. Game show time. We gotta add like a jingle or something. I'm gonna look for a jingle.
Game show time.
Wow, that was so good. Oh my goodness.
You know the audience is hyped right now. They just heard that.
No. They absolutely are. We're gonna start off with the top 5 game because I love the top 5 game.
Yes.
And you know, sadly, Boop isn't here to stink it up this time. Courts, can I just pick which one I want to do, or do I have to do it in the order that I sent it to you? Or can I just do whichever one I want? Okay, well, let's do the second one first. So, obviously, this week, or I say this week, last weekend, we had the Amarr Cup take place. The Amarr solo competition. Did you guys watch it? Oh, of course. It's fine. You got some time. It's fine, of course. Don't worry. All right, so, did any of you guys watch the Amarr Solo Cup? Most stacked solo lobby we've seen in a long time. I did watch
bits of it, yeah.
Yeah. Eddie, you managed to catch any of it?
I did, and I'm haunted by the game where they all turned their Discord mics on.
Yes, that was...
It's literally, I think that's affected my sleep for 3 straight days after.
It was quite the experience, yeah. So for people who don't know, Amarr had a solo competition where he invited a bunch of the best EU players. Genuinely, it was the most stacked lobby. He didn't invite an NA player. He invited Cooper, and Cooper didn't show up for game 1, so he was disqualified. But it was a full EU lobby, and you had, again, so many of the top players in the world. It was super stacked, and there were different sort of stipulations. So you had bonus money for people who got the most kills, bonus money for people who went the longest without a kill. It was 6 games of just like the regular BR, and then each day there was a bonus round. On the first day, it was like a Tilted Towers only round, and the next day it was just an OG only round. And it was a great tournament. You know, shout out to Amarr, man, for, you know, he's always put on great tournaments when he has in Fortnite. And it was nice to see some stacked solos for the first time in you know, a very, very long time. The end of the tournament had a bit of controversy because it was won by Pixie, we thought. Then one of the elimination points from Swizzy didn't count during a bonus round where they had like 3 times points or whatever. So then once they counted that properly, Swizzy won. But then it turns out that kill was potentially fed to Swizzy by Mustache, his teammate, because obviously it's solo, so everyone's landing at the same POI. So then there was a bunch of drama, and they decided to split the win. So they both won and got 7.5k each, instead of the winner getting 10k and second getting 5k.
Yeah.
It was a whole ordeal, which it was kind of sad that the tournament ended that way, because it kind of just like shits on the whole thing. And it also made me a bit skeptical of like, if they didn't count Swizzy's bonus
There's
points,
a lot of them.
Must be,
surely there's a lot of bonus points that didn't get counted. But let's ignore that. Let's ignore all of that.
Third-party cups in Fortnite, you know, they're always there's always something in it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, let's stick with the vibes. Let's stick with the vibes.
Yeah, good vibes.
Ignore some of the facts.
Well, this week's question of the week will obviously be around the top 5 of the event. And what it is going to be, it's going to be, which 5 players had the most eliminations in the Amarr Solo Cup? So think about it. I know you guys didn't watch the whole event, but if you know, think about all the players who have, you know, the most elims, you know, some of the best fighters in the region, stuff, lobby filled with the most stacked players in the EU. Which 5 players got the most eliminations in this tournament? That is what I'm going to ask you today. That's what this week's top 5 is. Are you guys in the top 5? Can you put your answers in?
I can't put it in. I'm ready.
We are ready. There we go. Got it.
Everyone's ready?
Going.
All right.
We're going.
So get your answers in. Be sure to play along at home as well. Be sure to play along. Which 5 players had the most eliminations? Now, I will say there was a lot of surprise performances for me in the tournament. A lot of players who, you know, sort of were doing incredibly well that maybe you wouldn't have expected to do really well. You know, you had the typical, I don't want to call them boomers, right? But you know, the people who like, people just sort of dash away, you know, like guys like Queasy. You know, Queasy came top 10. I think he came like 8th or something. I don't know where he finished exactly. But yeah, all of you people that hate on Queasy and act like Queasy's just some like old man who can't do anything, look at him getting top 10 in the most stacked solo lobby we've ever seen in the EU. Do you guys have your answers in?
I do.
Yes.
And it's funny you mentioned Queasy because I remember I have looked at the leaderboard with the elims on it already.
I have
And
also.
It's
before.
funny that you said Queasy in this because he had like 10 elims. And I think he was like 10th or 9th or whatever. He had like 10 elims in comparison to everyone else had tons. So
Here's the second page with Cammy with 5 elims and Predator with 3 over the whole tournament.
Yeah. So, all right. So we'll start off with you, Harry. Then, what was your top 5?
I actually think this is the best I've cooked. And this is when I'm about to go do horribly wrong, but I've cooked. Shxrk first, Swizzy second. Now, Faded Pigeon, I remember him having a lot of kills. I think he made money for having the most kills in one game. I'm pretty sure he earned in one of the games for most kills,
Did
right?
get a bonus prize for that.
And then Vino just came, I think he came 3rd or 4th, so he's got to be up there. And Hris also went crazy in a lot of games, so that is my top 5.
Okay, Rhys, what is your top 5 this week?
I also put Shxrk first because I remember he tweeted specifically, I am Boop.
Definitely not Boop.
I remember he tweeted specifically that he had the most elims. Then Swizzy, I can't remember who I put after that. Was it Vino I had after that? I had Tayson in there as well.
Tayson, he played well too far this week.
Yeah. He was first on day 1. Who did I have?
There we
go. I put Pixie. There you go. Yeah, because Pixie is in up time. Yeah, Shxrk, Swizzy, Pixie, Vino, Tayson. So I know Shxrk and Swizzy, and I know Vino did good. But I'm not. The bottom 3, I'm not 100% on their like order.
Yeah, ordering. Yeah.
Okay. And then Teddy, your first ever top 5, I believe. I just realized as we were going through the whole process, you've not done a top 5 before. Oh wait, did you do one last week?
No, we didn't do.
No, we did imposters and we did fantasy draft.
Okay.
Which
well, either way, your
is
top 5
shrouded in
this week,
controversy.
Teddy. Read it out for us. What's your top 5?
I didn't look at the leaderboard. I watched the tournament and I enjoyed it. So I went with Shxrk number 1, Pixie number 2, Swizzy number 3, and then Marius and Veno. Those were my 5.
Ooh, okay.
I can't believe I forgot Pixie. I can't believe.
Really, really, really good top 5s from all of you. This is going to be a close one. I don't know, Quartz, if you have whoever won based off of the correct order, because it's gonna come down to people having the right orders in place.
I know who's.
I believe off of. Okay, I'm gonna look at it now. Let's see who wins this week.
So how many did we all get right? Can you say that?
So, I'm gonna just give the top 5. Yeah. Let me give the top 5. Okay. So the answers for this week's top 5. In 5th place, the acceptable answers were Veno or Marius, because they both had the same amount of kills.
Oh.
So Veno and Marius, both acceptable answers for 5th place. In 4th place was Faded Pigeon.
Oh, hey.
Oh, man.
Faded Pigeon was a cook.
In 3rd place was Swizzy.
Ooh.
In 2nd place was Ajerss.
Wow. Okay.
And in 1st place, like most of you got it correct, Shxrk had the most eliminations of the whole thing.
I got 5.
You got 5. Well, oh wait, did you have 5?
Yeah, I got the ball.
Oh yeah, I think Harry just wins. Harry just wins. Yeah, that's
oh my
another win
days.
for Harry.
All right, that was a cook. That was.
Yeah, now you cook.
Oh my.
Ooh, wait. Okay, so VAR check here from Quartz. And Quartz has just said, and he's pointed out that Teddy had Shxrk in the correct position, which he gets a bonus point for, but Harry also got that bonus point. But Teddy also got Veno in the correct position as well, in 5th.
And he had Swizzy in the correct. Wait, did you get 5? Did you get 5, Teddy, as well?
I went 4 for 5. Pixie wasn't on the list, and I had Pixie
Swizzy
on my list.
You also have Swizzy in the correct position as well. You get a bonus point for that. But technically, Teddy wins if we're doing the bonus points. But you did get 5 out of 5.
No, I was gonna say I got 5 out of 5. I could have done.
I'm gonna be honest. I think I'm gonna make the executive decision that Harry gets the dub here.
I have to agree with that. I have to agree. 5 for 5 is a
that is a rarity.
Is that
a first?
Yeah,
I think that's a first.
Yeah, I think so.
History.
I think so.
I'll give it to Harry. I'll give it to Harry.
I'll take the pay win.
As soon as
A
I saw
valiant
Faded
effort.
Pigeon in the top 5, I was like, either Harry has stunk this up or he's cooked something crazy. So, seemed
I
to be
just
the
remember.
latter.
I remember that win he got for money because I think it was him and Swizzy got the same amount of kills, but it was like the ruling was Faded got the kills earlier into the game, so it counted as him getting the win. That's how like he did the tiebreaker. So, but yeah,
interesting.
I'm honoured.
All right, now, obviously, you know, we had a bunch of drama in that event, and you know, towards the end, you know, we had Venno fighting against the whole Balkan comp. It felt like, you know, you had Venno, he was beefing with Tayson. You had Tayson beefing with Flixie because Flixie was trying to get Mustache banned and blah, 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 blah. It was a whole nightmare. Absolute nightmare. Now, in that, it did make me think, you know, Tayson, you know, Venno's gotten into a bunch of beef with a lot of his former teammates. You know, like he had the whole thing with Clicks at one point. You know, he had his beef with Queasy after Grands because, you know, the whole spam inviting that his teammates were doing, they blocked each other on social media. And then he had this whole thing with, you know, Tayson, right, at the markup. And so it had me thinking, like, this guy just fights with all of his teammates. I wonder who his, like, actual, like, favorite teammates he's played with are, who he doesn't fight with and have beef with. So I asked Venno. So we're going to do another top 5. Top 5 this week.
We got another code.
Can you guys guess who Venno's top 5 favorite teammates of all time are?
Ooh,
It's
let me
gonna be the same
I need
code
to
as last
re-enter.
time.
I already backed out.
I backed out as well.
This might be problematic.
Because it was covering the whole screen.
I can just cut this bit. You guys saw him?
Oh, let me click validate. Hold on. Oh, I can see it. I see it.
I can see. Yeah.
Okay, I'm back in.
You guys are back in?
Go.
Okay, so it's best.
His favorite teammates.
Who did Venno say are his top 5 favorite teammates he's played with in Fortnite? Play along at home. Make your guesses at home as well. Pause the video. Don't cheat and wait till the answers. But think about the people Venno's played with. Who do you think his top 5 favorites are of all time?
Potentially a difficult answer I just put in there.
It's a tough one to think about. Maybe don't overthink it too much though as well. Because some of his teammates he's had beef with, he might still have loved playing with them. But you know, just think about who
I can't think of any more. I've got 3. And I'm trying to think who the hell he's played with outside of that.
Depends how far back I want to go, because I know Vino played with him like World Cup, and obviously there's no way he's gonna have that in there.
Let me open the Fortnite tracker. I can't remember. I literally can't name more than 3 people here.
How can you not name more than 3
I
of
think
Venno's
I
teammates,
can
Reese?
name most of them.
Reese, you're gonna see the people and you're gonna be like, I've had
No,
an
I think I
absolute
have
howler.
like.
Oh.
You know what's funny is I wasn't thinking about this season.
Yeah, that's what I just thought.
Yes, that's like he has teammates right now.
But that only puts
you
me
know,
to 5. Oh,
I'm gonna keep my 5th out, so I just want to keep it there.
Okay, Teddy, do you have yours locked in?
Okay, I have. I've put mine in.
Okay, you got it in. Teddy, do you have yours locked in?
There we go. I hear you.
Well, that's not good. Teddy's having some computer issues.
Okay.
All right. Well, we're gonna have.
I'm
Harry.
back, but I cooked.
Harry. Okay, Harry. What's your top 5?
All right, let's
That's
go.
the winner
through
of
it.
the last one.
All right, don't think I cooked anywhere near as hard on this one until. So we got Queasy in first. You know, I think even though they have some beef, he always speaks highly of Queasy and wanting to play with him, but it's just not working out. But Acorn in second. There was some genuine beef. You know, I think it was Gamers 8. There was like some really big beef, but I think just how well they did. And then I put Clicks in third. I would probably move Clicks up because he always talked about how like he had some of the deepest like conversations with. And because I want to keep my 5th spot, I had to pick one between Vico and Flixie, so I just put Vico. And I got to put Archie in there. The content. the content's got to be there. Like, even though technically not a teammate, he has played tournaments with him before and has played NA, like, qualified to an NA finals with him. There's some of the best content. Like, surely he's put him in there.
Interesting. All right. Teddy, you'll go next as the person who came second last time. What's your top 5?
Sure. So I put Vico and Flexi as 1 and 2. I think he's really happy he just won FNCS. He's always tweeting what a great teammates they were, what a great time he had, and he's really happy that he won the most recent FNCS. So I'm assuming he has some recency bias. Then I have Queasy. For obvious reasons, they go way back. Invitational, and then the insane trio that broke FNCS records. What'd you call the video, Hris?
I can't even remember at this point.
Anyways, for that alone, amazing duo. And then Clicks. Yeah. I do think he had a good time with Clicks. I know there was maybe a little beef at the end, but I think same org, good friends. And then I just put a random one. He did play with Rezon one season, so I put Rezon.
Okay. Interesting. Okay. All right. Cool. Hris, what's your top 5?
I gotta come out and put Big Queasy first. If Queasy, we've all put Queasy first, I think, have we? No, we haven't.
Yeah,
No, we haven't.
No.
So I've gone Queasy, and then I put Pinq. I know they're good friends. They've not played in FNCS together, if I remember correctly, but they do play like tournaments together. I actually meant to put Clicks above Aqua. Now that I look at it, I actually meant to put Aqua 5th, so I won't retract it. But I
no, it's locked in.
Yeah, it's locked in. But looking at it, I meant to put him 5th, and then put Clicks, Vico, Aqua. But I put Aqua there. He always talks highly in terms of gameplay, in terms of how much he taught him. So I'm sure he learned a lot, even though they were arguing and beefing a bunch. Clicks, same things as other people said. And Vico's vibes are always good. Even though he gets a little excited sometimes.
It's a bit shouty.
It's a bit shouty, but like a lot of times it's he's very hyped up. So I know that's not necessarily what Vino likes in a teammate, but still. I'm sure it's not that bad.
Okay. Well, I can reveal all of you had 4 correct.
Ooh. There's no way.
One of you had none in the right order.
That'll be me.
One of you had 1 in the right order. And one of you had 2 in the right order. So someone has 1. Okay. Someone has definitively 1. I can reveal that the top 5 is
Archie's here.
Vico in number 5.
Yes.
Oh, no.
One of his recent teammates, someone he's had a lot of fun with. In fact, I'll give you some. Actually, no, you know what? I'll give it after.
Yeah.
In number 4, Veno's 4th favorite teammate of all time. Someone he had a lot of great memories with. Someone he had a lot of fun playing with. Easy.
Ooh.
I thought you were going to say Archie then.
Yeah, same.
And I build it up a bit.
Yeah.
In number 3, another legendary player we had a lot of great memories with, and he won with. It's Aqua. Number 3. In number 2, a recent teammate, someone who maybe goes under the radar in this team as great as he is. Lexi is in number 2. And Veno's favorite teammate of all time, as Harry mentioned so well, great conversations, deep conversations. He got a Rolex from this guy, which maybe tilted the odds a bit. It's Clicks in number 1. Veno's favorite teammate of all time is Clicks, according to Veno. So, honorable mentions. There were some other people you mentioned as, some of his favorite teammates. Rezon was one of them. So, Teddy putting Rezon in there was a good shout. Because Rezon was someone he mentioned as well. Who else did he mention to me? He mentioned somebody else that was interesting. It was... what is it? He mentioned Joe.
I was going to put Joe. I was actually thinking about putting Joe.
That goes way back.
Joe.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a throwback, playing with Joe. People also remember he played with Mongraal actually for a bit of time, didn't he?
Mongraal
right?
and Joe. It was
Mongraal was someone you mentioned. Yeah, Mongraal and Joe. All right, yeah. So that's win for Resub.
Let's go.
Congrats, Resub. You're in the right spot. You won. You were second, so I can get again.
Yeah.
Teddy, and then Harry last.
I take.
But yeah.
Quartz is saying
I win. By the way, apparently,
Quartz is saying I win on placement across the 2 games. Consistency score.
I mean, if we're doing, on consistency, yes. Teddy wins top 5 on consistency. 2 second places, I guess. Yeah, sure. We'll give you the Mickey Mouse.
I think the way Quartz is thinking about it rocks, though. I think it.
Yeah.
Oh, of course, naturally, because he gave you the win, so it rocks. Think about it like that. Yeah, absolutely. All right. We are going to read some super thanks. Let's get the super thanks up.
Let's get them up.
We don't have too many this week. We have Geordie Sosa once again says, as you read my super thanks, it will be my birthday. I'm turning 19. Love the podcast. I wish I can donate more, but this is coming from my financial aid. Oh no. Also, can Coach Harry stream? Resub, can you show up more? Boop, stop overcooking. And Level, I can't even spell my name right. Level is a chill guy. Nothing wrong with him. I don't know who Level is.
I got berated at the start of this show for not turning up for one show, and now even the Superthanks are telling me I need to turn up more. My impact on the show is clearly felt when I miss a single episode.
Yeah, deeply felt. All right. I mean, Harry, are you going to stream?
Yeah. We'll just leave it. Maybe.
That's a no.
He's not streaming, guys.
That's a
Yeah,
no.
that's a no.
Give up on the dream of Harry streaming, Hotline coming back, Boop overcooking.
There's a way higher
showing
chance
up.
of me streaming than Hotline coming back. There is. Yeah.
I loved
there you
this
go.
comment when I saw it in the comments for last episode. By the way, I just want to say,
Yeah, no. And also, happy birthday, Jordy.
Yeah, happy birthday,
as
Jordy. Happy
always.
birthday.
Don't use your financial aid, though, to super thank. It's
No.
not worth it. Please don't. Stop that. All right. On to the next. We have Viscuti. Says, love the podcast, boys. Thank you, Viscuti.
Oh.
Or not, or actually, it's IWNL. I will not lose. So just Viscut. Viscat. Shout out to you, mate.
Thank you. Love the comment.
Yeah.
I also love
Yeah.
money, so appreciate that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And in number one, we have The Scouse Truck. What a name. The Scouse Truck says, love the podcast as usual. I respect Peterbot for his skills, but my personal opinion is Pollo is the better player all around
Ooh.
and deserves more credit than he gets. Plus, I'm happy for Clicks breaking the 4th place curse and think him and Yomzo and Batman, also known as Higgs now,
Yes.
all click well together and can actually see them getting higher throughout the year and possibly challenge for the top spot.
I want to clarify something on this, as I clarified 2 episodes ago, is that technically Clicks has not broken the 4th place curse. We have instead just moved to trios where 3rd is just the same as a 4th in duos. So, the curse is contained within that same part of the leaderboard, the same percentage of the leaderboard, I would say.
I see
So
this
you-
comment on I get this comment a lot, and the leaderboard says 3rd. The 4th place curse is let's give it to Clicks.
No.
Right, we just got to
Come
enter him in a
on.
1v1 tournament. That's it.
Okay. Well, we'll see if he can keep breaking that curse and eventually challenge, which I think they're getting better, so who knows. Thank you for all the super thanks this week, as always. Thank you all for listening this week, as always. We appreciate your support, and we hope you enjoyed the show, and we'll see you all next week.
Bye-bye.
Peace out.
Peace out.
Bye.